En espagnol, je m'en rappelle dans le sort.
Non, mais je peux le faire. Ouais.
Non, mais on sait ça en fait. Oui.
Le 4, c'est le fort.
Le 4, c'est le sort. Mais maintenant, il y a le renvoi de fleurs dans le. Maintenant, il y a le renvoi de fleurs. Non, mais c'est juste pour vous dire que c'est ça.
Normalmente aquí va a ser preparado. Aquí, y después van
Lazar,
a...
I will give the floor to the director of the World Heritage Center. Mr. Lazar, you have the floor. Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to everyone. Dear committee members, dear delegates, we know that some technical problems occurred this morning, notably regarding access to Wi-Fi and sound issues. Please note that the host country uh, has taken all the necessary arrangements to fix these issues, and I would like to thank them really for working hard during lunchtime. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Director. Excuse me. Dear colleagues, I hope you all have had a good lunch break. We will now resume our examination of item 5A, which started in the morning. We have already heard 22 speakers. I will give the floor to the Director of the World Heritage Center to read out the list of the remaining speakers. Mr. Elendo Osamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I will now read the list of the remaining observers speaker who requested to take the floor. Pakistan, Colombia, Thailand, Poland, Brazil, Grenada, Russian Federation, Guinea, State of Palestine, and Ecuador. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I now give the floor to Pakistan to be followed by Colombia.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I would like to appreciate the Secretariat for its overall activities, including its operational work and implementation of the World Heritage Committee's decisions. The World Heritage Convention is one of the most ratified legal instruments in the world, with near universal recognition, and thereby shows the importance of the committee. We are pleased to see that special attention is being paid to UNESCO's two main global priorities, Africa and gender equality in its overall activities, as well as to priority groups, youth, and small island developing states. During the reporting period, the World Heritage Center carried out a successful reactive monitoring mission to the archaeological ruins of Mohenjo-Daro in consultation with our provincial and local authorities. Moreover, conservation plans and disaster risk reduction strategies were also developed for World Heritage properties of Pakistan. These properties were not immune to frequent climate change related disasters, such as August 2022 floods, which left more than a third of our country submerged. Lastly, the report states that the World Heritage Center is developing a toolkit on climate action for World Heritage. We therefore would request the Secretariat to share further information with us about this toolkit. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Colombia to be followed by Thailand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I wish to thank you and the Government of India for hosting this important session and welcoming us to your wonderful country. I will now proudly continue in Spanish, and for that, all my gratitude to the Kingdom of Spain. La delegación de Colombia felicita al Centro de Patrimonio Mundial por todas las actividades realizadas, en especial los espacios de articulación entre las convenciones de 1972 y 2003 para mejorar la gestión de los patrimonios materiales e inmateriales alrededor del mundo. En este sentido, y con la relación a las sinergias que existen entre dichas convenciones, las cuales fueron discutidas en la Conferencia de Nápoles, en Colombia estamos desarrollando iniciativas de complementariedad entre el sector cultura y ambiental, Por ejemplo, en el desarrollo del expediente de nominación del Parque Nacional Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta como Patrimonio Mundial en integración con la inclusión en la lista representativa del Patrimonio Cultural y Material de la Humanidad del Sistema de Conocimiento Ancestral de los 4 pueblos indígenas de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, Arhuaco, Cogi, Cancuamo y Wiwa. Por otra parte, agradezco de manera especial el apoyo y la participación de la UNESCO en la COP16, que se llevará a cabo entre el 21 de octubre y el 1 de noviembre en la ciudad de Cali, Colombia. Y aprovecho la ocasión para extenderles a todos una cordial invitación a participar en esta conferencia a fin de que conjuntamente coordinemos y fortalezcamos los esfuerzos globales enfocados en conservar nuestra biodiversidad. Establezcamos políticas y metas claras para proteger nuestro patrimonio natural y cultural y continuemos avanzando hacia la movilización de recursos para la implementación del marco global Kunming-Montreal. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Thailand to be followed by Poland.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairperson, dear committee members, at the outset, allow us to express our gratitude to the Government of the Republic of India for hosting this meeting and for the warm hospitality extended to us. We would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you, Mr. Chair, the Ambassador Sharma, on assuming the presidency of this 46th session. We also wish to thank the Secretariat for the comprehensive report presented under this item. Mr. Chairperson, Thailand was member of the World Heritage Committee during 2019-2023, and during this mandate, we have been working with committee members, state parties, and the Secretariat to support a balanced, representative, and credible list of the World Heritage. In this matter, we recognize the importance of the cooperation among developing countries. Strengthening capacity building in terms of nominations, preparation, and effective conservation is key. Resources should equitably be mobilized so that countries with World Heritage potentials should be better represented. In this regard, the government of Thailand supported the hosting of a number of relevant events and activities. For example, the International Conference on Southeast Asian Archaeology and Fine Arts, dedicated to sharing and updating archaeological knowledge and cultural heritage in Southeast Asia, held in Bangkok, Thailand in June this year. The conference was hosted by senior SPAFA, scholars, researchers in archaeology as well as professionals working in related fields have had the opportunity to exchange their views on conservation, protection, and research findings, fostering further cooperations. Lastly, we would like to emphasize the significance of collective efforts, the spirit of multilateralism and consensus, as well as we all desire to uphold the value of the convention. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Poland, followed by Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, let me congratulate you, the Ambassador Vishal Sharma, for assuming this important function. And as I have had pleasure working with you for a while, I'm convinced that your able leadership will make this session a successful one. Allow me also to express gratitude for our host country, India, for its warm welcome and hospitality. India, with its diversity, cultural diversity and richness, exemplifies all what 1972 convention stands for. So namaste very much. I wish also to commend the Secretariat, WHC, for its daily work and for the very comprehensive report that has just been presented. Mr. Chair, Poland aligns itself with a statement made earlier by Italy on Ukraine. Mr. Chair, Poland is very much committed to promoting and safeguarding 1972 Convention and its goals. Therefore, we are happy to support financially through voluntary contributions World Heritage preservation efforts, including in emergency situations. As a member of Priority Africa Group of Friends, We note with appreciation all efforts made by WHC in this regard, and we encourage everybody to continue these activities. We also welcome strengthening synergies between the convention and the biodiversity-related conventions and programs. Climate change is one of key challenges we are facing, particularly with respect to culture of seeds. Finally, Mr. Chair, we are happy to see that our initiative of organizing World Heritage Site Managers Forum is continued by India. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Brazil, followed by Grenada.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brazil extends its heartfelt congratulations to India for hosting another exceptional international event. We are deeply impressed by the organization's efficiency and the warm hospitality of our Indian colleagues. This committee meeting holds special significance for us. We are honored to present the nomination file for the national park called Lençóis Maranhenses, a site of unparalleled natural beauty and unique geomorphic features. This nomination embodies Brazil's renewed commitment to natural heritage protection. It is a national, joint effort across different government levels, alongside the very important involvement of local communities. Recognizing and supporting the vital role World Heritage Sites play in biodiversity protection is crucial. Inscribing new natural sites, particularly those identified as key areas for biodiversity, can significantly enhance UNESCO's role in global conservation efforts. Brazil takes pride in being part of the network of Category 2 centers. The Lúcio Costa Center plays a vital role in promoting heritage within the Global South. We remain committed to providing resources to fulfill its mandate. Mr. Chairman, in concluding, I would like to raise the issue of geographical imbalance and requesting the Secretariat's assistance. When you go through the list of inscribed sites, we realize that during the last committee session, only 3 sites were inscribed from the 33 countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. This year, the situation is even more concerning, with only 1 site from our region under consideration. Therefore, I urge the Secretariat to outline concrete plans for achieving a more balanced representation of Latin America and the Caribbean on the World Heritage List. I thank you very much.
Obrigado, Brazil. I now give the floor to Grenada, to be followed by the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start by congratulating and thanking the government and the people of India for their great hospitality, and to commend the Director of the World Heritage for his report, and the members of the World Heritage Center's team for all their intense efforts and work. We strongly appreciate the activities undertaken, in particular capacity building development, notably that addressed to youth and communities, as well as for all the support given to Africa and small islands developing states. We commend the Center for its support to the preparation of tentative lists and nomination dossiers, including the implementation of the upstream process for the Grenadine Island site in cooperation with the advisory bodies. We equally appreciate the assistance provided in emergency situation, and notably a possible support following the catastrophic effects of Hurricane Beryl in Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, and other islands in the Caribbean. We commend the efficient organization of the open-ended working group decided by the 45th session of the committee for a more balanced and credible World Heritage List, and we look forward to its positive outcomes. As mentioned by other interventions, we are also alarmed by the difficult situation facing the World Heritage Center, and we call for its strengthening in the framework of the future program and budget 43C5. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the Russian Federation, to be followed by Guinea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We are grateful to India for warm hospitality and excellent organization of the session. We would prefer to give our opinion on the report of the Secretariat. As stated by the Director General, the Secretariat seems ready to assist the committee in dealing equitably with different sensitive issues. But it is evident that some of biased committee members, instead of prioritizing collective action to protect heritage worldwide, have again opted for double standards and selective approach. Russian Federation firmly rejects the inadmissible allegations and false accusations made by one newly elected committee member in delegations of the Western countries, the main sponsors of the conflict. It is obvious that they care less of the world heritage and more of pursuing their own short-term political interests, thus putting this UNESCO flagship convention in danger. It is regrettable that they escalate and use this valuable expert forum to spread misinformation and politicized rhetoric, while the world majority is endeavoring to find a way out of the current situation. In conclusion, I would like to recall once again that the Russian Federation is firmly committed to the World Heritage Convention and fulfill vigorously all the international obligations. Thank you.
Siba. I now give the floor to Guinea to be followed by the State of Palestine.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La République de Guinée se réjouit de participer à cette rencontre du Comité du patrimoine mondial et remercie particulièrement le peuple et le gouvernement de la République indienne pour avoir abrité la 46e session du Comité du patrimoine mondial. La Guinée est un État partie de la Convention sur le patrimoine mondial culturel et naturel depuis 1979 et demeure consciente de l'importance de la préservation des ressources naturelles. C'est cette volonté qui a motivé la préservation des ressources naturelles, le classement des monts Nimba en site du patrimoine mondial, une zone impressionnante de biodiversité qui constitue aussi l'habitat de nombreuses espèces. Monsieur le Président, la contrainte de la conservation, de la gestion durable et de la biodiversité des monts Nimba réside essentiellement dans les activités minières en cours. La réserve qui a lui d'ailleurs fait valoir beaucoup depuis 1974. Le statut de réserve naturelle intégrale, réserve de biosphère en 1980 et patrimoine mondial en péril en 81. Pour parvenir à une possible collaboration mine-environnement, le tout fondé sur la protection du site du patrimoine mondial, l'État guinéen s'est engagé à déployer des efforts en vue d'une synergie d'action avec tous les acteurs concernés par la préservation de ce haut lieu, à la fois culturel, naturel, qui constitue la réserve de biosphère des monts Nimba. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais rassurer que les autorités guinéennes veillent de près à ce que les activités minières, je répète, des activités minières, n'altèrent guère l'équilibre écologique des monts Nimba, un site assez précieux pour la Guinée, la sous-région, mais aussi l'humanité tout entière, car c'est la source de plusieurs cours d'eau internationaux qui coulent à travers l'Afrique de l'Ouest. La réalisation des études impact environnemental et social tiennent compte de la conservation du bien des monts Nimba, qui reste aussi une exigence pour l'octroi d'autorisation des activités minières dans la réserve. Il est certain que les actions comme la surveillance des patrouilles nationales et mixtes, la restauration des zones dégradées vont se poursuivre davantage avec l'appui des communautés ainsi que la recherche scientifique. Enfin, Monsieur le Président, l'État partie de la République de Guinée souhaite vivement le retrait des monts Nimba du statut du patrimoine en péril. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I request state parties to please restrict yourself to the time limit allocated. I now give the floor to the State of Palestine to be followed by Ecuador.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Namaste. Let me join first my voice to those who congratulated you for your able leadership. Let me also express my deep appreciation to the government and the people of India for hosting this session of the committee and for the amazing organization and the warm hospitality. Thank you, India. Thanks also to the Secretariat for its report, but also for its activities that are very useful for the implementation of our convention. Special thanks also to the Secretariat for its assistance and support to our experts for the development of management and conservation of World Heritage Sites in Palestine. And thanks to both the Secretariat and India for the successful organization of the Youth Forum and the World Heritage Site Managers. Finally, Mr. Chairperson, I call upon all state parties to this convention to loudly and strongly denounce the destruction of cultural property in Gaza during the ongoing war there, and to ask Israel, the occupying power, to halt such illegal and immoral attacks against cultural property in Palestine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Shukran, Habibi. I request no political statements, please. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ecuador.
Gracias, presidente. Permítame en primer lugar agradecer y felicitar al gobierno de India por la excelente organización de esta reunión y a su pueblo por la calurosa acogida en este maravilloso país. Me sumo también a las felicitaciones por su elección para dirigir nuestros trabajos. Quiero agradecer particularmente al director del Centro de Patrimonio por su comprensivo informe de esta mañana, que da cuenta del trabajo desarrollado a pesar de las difíciles y limitadas condiciones presupuestarias. En ese marco, quiero destacar particularmente el apoyo que el centro brinda a los estados y, por supuesto, a mi país, especialmente en el trabajo que iniciaremos próximamente con el apoyo del Fondo de Asistencia Internacional para la finalización de la lista tentativa de bienes culturales, naturales y mixtos para su inclusión en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. Reitero el compromiso del Ecuador como uno de los primeros países que se benefició de inscripciones de su patrimonio con los principios y objetivos de la Convención y con el trabajo del Comité. Gracias, presidente.
Gracias, mi hermano. I see that the state of Israel has raised its plate. I give the floor to Israel.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you for India for this beautiful hospitality, and thank you for the Secretariat. I wish to refer to the issues of the Palestinian Authority that spoke before me. I wish to reiterate the fact that it was Hamas who started the war in Gaza, and therefore the responsibility is on them. My colleague Munir does not even represent the Hamas. The Hamas is a terror organization that still has 120 hostages, Israeli hostages in his hands. So before we speak about culture and heritage, we should speak about humanity and human lives, which the Hamas does not hold dear. This includes the lives of the Palestinian Authority themselves. So I think he should take an extra caution when protecting the Hamas, which is actually his enemy and a terror organization. Thank you so much.
Toda. Now that we have exhausted the list of speakers, I will ask the director of the WHC, Mr. Elando Asomo, to answer your questions. Mr. Director, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me first start by thanking all the committee members and all the state parties who took the floor to commend and appreciate the report of the Secretariat. And it is an opportunity for me to say that we are truly, we really thank all of you, and we appreciate your words. We also appreciate your effort to continue supporting and facilitate the work of the Secretariat. So again, thank you very much. For the sake of time, Mr. Chairperson, I would like to first of all reiterate that, as I said, that uh, many of you in your interventions have insisted on the importance to continue giving priority to uh, Africa, to the small island development state, to capacity building, to project to local communities, and we will continue to do so with your support. And I think this is important. I also would like to now maybe try to answer some specific questions or comments or requests for clarifications that were made by some of you committee members. On the question raised by the request for clarification raised by the delegate, the distinguished ambassador of Greece, I want to say, of course, that we took note, and I think definitely, I'm sure, when you consider the examination of the draft decision, we will come back to it to clarify or provide our views and understanding of it later. But I believe that some of the presentation were also to the author of the amendment. So thank you for that. I also would like to je voudrais un peu faire référence à l'intervention de la distinguée déléguée du Rwanda, notamment sur la question de l'évaluation préliminaire. D'abord, je voudrais vraiment remercier le Rwanda et le soutien du Rwanda au travail du secrétariat et profiter parce que c'est une question tellement importante que c'est l'occasion certainement de peut-être réexpliquer un petit peu pour tous les membres du comité et les délégués présents l'importance et pourquoi l'évaluation préliminaire aujourd'hui. D'abord que l'évaluation préliminaire, elle a pour but d'améliorer la qualité des propositions d'inscription qui sont soumises et aussi de réduire les chances de, de ne pas avoir du succès. Donc, pour dire que c'est un processus en fait qui vise à renforcer la capacité des États parties à aller vers la soumission de propositions d'inscription qui sont satisfaisantes et ne pas les obliger aussi à mobiliser énormément de ressources financières pour la préparation de dossiers et après qu'ils n'auront que peu de chances pour aboutir. Et c'était ça un peu cette idée globale autour de l'évaluation préliminaire. Et cette analyse préliminaire, et c'est une procédure en fait qui intervient à un stade précoce de la proposition d'inscription, mais elle permet plutôt de mieux planifier dans le temps le travail et de bénéficier d'un meilleur conseil des experts et des recommandations au cours de cette phase-là. Mais pas simplement cela, mais aussi de favoriser le dialogue que vous, les États parties, vous avez toujours, vous nous demandez de continuer de faciliter dans un travail comme celui-là. C'est juste pour dire que lorsque le comité a pris la décision de lancer ce travail, c'était vraiment pour que sa mise en œuvre permette d'améliorer aussi la représentation sur la liste du patrimoine mondial aussi des régions qui ne sont pas encore assez représentés sur la liste du patrimoine mondial et nous allons continuer à travailler avec vous, tous les États parties, dans ce sens-là et clarifier peut-être quelques questions qui ne sont pas très claires sur la question de l'analyse préliminaire. Now, I want to come back to one of the last questions that several state parties raised concerning the issue of important issue of climate action. And I think I wanted and precisely what we were trying to do around the climate action toolkit. So let me just clarify that this work that we are doing, it's thanks to the support of the government of Australia. And this initiative is being carried jointly uh, with the World Heritage Center, but with ICROM, IUCN, and ICOMOS, the three advisory bodies. And the purpose here is to collect a range of diverse existing tools and kind of measuring techniques currently available for different types of World Heritage sites. So the initial efforts have been made to identify and gather these tools, and we are working to see how best to make sure to make them available for capacity building effort, for instance. And I think also we are doing this also thanks to the support also of the Netherlands that are has joined also this initiative. And we will continue to work because this issue of trying to really move with finding a number of solutions to tackle the issue of climate change is absolutely important. And I take this opportunity to again tell you how important your action and your support will be to implement the policy document that has been adopted by the General Conference last time. And lastly, it's an opportunity also for me to conclude by saying that I wanted to express our gratitude to the government of India for the generous support that was announced to support capacity building for Africa and the small islands development state. And this is going to enable us continue to work together with the support of the advisory bodies on some of this important point and subject that we need to do in order to reinforce and the representativity of these two to Africa and the small island development state on the World Heritage List, but also provide more tools so that they can continue to increase their capacities to protect and conserve all the World Heritage sites. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I see that there are no more questions or comments. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to proceed with the adoption of Draft Decision 46-5A. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if he has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have indeed received one amendment submitted by Saint Vincent et les Grenadines and Kenya, asking for an inversion of paras 8 and 9 without text modifications, as well as new paras 10 and 11. However, before reading them, I would like to inform you that I was alerted by the Honorable Delegate of Saint Vincent that the amendments changed in the meantime, so I would suggest hearing directly from one of these two submitting state parties, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur. I will give the floor now to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we are proposing this amendment. I start with paragraph 10. The language is taken from the document, paragraph 115, when we say notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. It is written in the report, paragraph 15, 115, and we are very concerned by this situation, and also the constraints and sustainability of the center, because we know that the center is facing, as many units in UNESCO, lack of human and financial resources. But if we look, for instance, in paragraph 118 and 119, it's clearly said that there is a widening gap between available resources and the workload of the Secretariat. We know that the convention is growing, and that's why we believe that this paragraph is important just to express our concerns. It is very nice to see in the decision, Mr. Chair, we thank, we congratulate, we welcome, we comment. It's very important. But also we have to express the concerns and to see how we can to find all together solution and to enhance the convention and its functioning. This is paragraph 10. Paragraph 11, we request the Director General to strengthen the ability and functional autonomy of the World Heritage Center to better conduct its work as a Secretariat, notably by allocating more UNESCO financial and human resources to the World Heritage Center when preparing the program and budget, and by enabling it to undertake fundraising activities to increase voluntary funding, etc. We added this paragraph because we know that we are preparing now the 43C5. And given the conditions and when we heard from the director of the center about the sustainability of the work and to facilitate, maybe we should think about such solution. Because if we want more capacity building, we know, Mr. Chair, we adopted in the open-ended working group many recommendations. And this recommendation will not be applicable if we don't give the ability to the center and to the convention to have more fundraising activities to enable the Secretariat to implement these recommendations, especially capacity building. Having said that, after the consultation with a member of the committee and with our colleague from the delegation of Kenya, maybe we could replace paragraph 11 by the following paragraph, if I can say it. Invites the Director General. So 11 will be invites the Director General to reinforce the World Heritage Center, notably by allocating more UNESCO financial and human resources to the World Heritage Center, and by supporting its fundraising activities from the private sector, the civil society, multilateral funds and institutions, in line with UNESCO's financial rules and regulations. I hope this paragraph will be acceptable as it is. Mr. Chair, it is the only way to reinforce the ability of the Secretariat to undertake its activities as they wish and as the member states are wishing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now give the floor to the ADG Culture, Mr. Otone, to answer the questions. You have the floor. Or comments.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Donc, par rapport aux questions posées par le cher délégué de la Grèce, l'ambassadeur, et ainsi qu'aux explications données par Saint-Vincent-et-les-Grenadines. Il y a deux choses. Un, sur le paragraphe 10. Comme vous avez mentionné, effectivement, la première partie que vous mentionnez est reprise du rapport de iOS. Par contre, dans la seconde partie de votre texte, il y a une interprétation de la part de votre délégation où vous faites référence, quand on parle de la convention, au centre. Et vous mettez un mot que j'ai essayé de trouver qui n'apparaît pas dans le rapport d'iOS, c'est la sustainabilité du centre. C'est quelque chose qui n'existe pas dans le texte. Donc effectivement, il y a une confusion par rapport au texte, dont la première partie est reproduite intégralement, et la deuxième, qui tout à coup met apparemment en danger le centre tel qu'il est mené aujourd'hui, dû au manque de financement et capacité constraints. Donc, face à la première partie, je ne vois pas de problème. Contre sur la deuxième, je ne sais pas de quelle sustainability du centre on est en train de parler, puisque ça n'existe ni dans le rapport de iOS, ni comme je l'ai compris, selon ma lecture du paragraphe 115 jusqu'au 118, il n'y a pas mention que le centre puisse être en danger. Quand je lis ce texte, c'est apparemment ce que est dit dans cet amendement. Rapport à la deuxième proposition que vous faites du changement du paragraphe 11, tel que vous l'avez aujourd'hui exprimé après les consultations avec les États membres, c'est effectivement quelque chose qu'on voit souvent dans toutes nos conventions, et vous le savez, qu'on a besoin de plus de support au niveau des ressources financières ainsi que ressources humaines pour pouvoir être confronté au suivi de 1199 aujourd'hui sites du patrimoine mondial, dont nous devons faire une 120, 140 états de conservation qui nous demandent effectivement un renforcement de nos équipes. Donc, pour dire tout cela, effectivement, sur le point 10, nous avons une lecture différente, clairement, par rapport à ce que vous présentez, parce qu'on parle de la Convention, et la Convention est confrontée à tous ces problèmes, mais là, vous faites une référence au sens, chose que je ne partage pas en tant que secrétariat. Et par rapport au changement que vous avez fait dans l'amendement de l'amendement que vous avez déjà présenté, me paraît que le paragraphe que vous proposez aujourd'hui va exactement en ligne à ce que est repris dans plusieurs de nos conventions où nous avons besoin de renforcement pour venir en aide aux États membres. Voilà, Monsieur le Président, merci beaucoup pour avoir l'opportunité de s'exprimer. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. ADG Culture. If there are no further comments or requests for interventions from the member states or the secretariat, we will go to the draft decision of this document and explore it para by para. Could we go to the decision, please? I will give the floor now to the rapporteur to summarize all the amendments which he has received.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to proofread para 11, if I may, so that we make sure it's the version that was submitted by Saint Vincent and Kenya as newly amended. So the new para gives writes the Director General to reinforce the World Heritage Center, notably by allocating more UNESCO financial and human resources to the World Heritage Center and by supporting its fundraising activities from the private sector, civil society, multilateral funds, and institutions in line with UNESCO's financial rules and regulations. Is that correct? It is. Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe we can then go back to paras 8 and 9, which were inverted without text modifications. On to paras 10. notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate, and expresses its concerns regarding the World Heritage Center's sustainability while it is facing growing financial and capacity constraints, as well as the increasing technical complexity of conservation-related issues. Para 11, as I just read, invites the Director General to reinforce the World Heritage Center, notably by allocating more UNESCO financial and human resources to the World Heritage Center and by supporting its fundraising activities from the private sector, civil society, multilateral funds, and institutions in line with UNESCO's financial rules and regulations. On to para 10, which become para 12 without any modifications anymore. Thank you, Chair.
I would like to ask the rapporteur, can you please clarify on para 11? Okay, now it's been clarified. As I had mentioned before, we'll go para by para. Para 1, are there any objections to adoption of para 1? I see none. Para 1 is adopted. Para 2, recalling decisions 44 Com 5A and 45 Com 5A adopted at its extended 44th session and 45th extended sessions, respectively. Are there any objections to the adoption of para 2? I see none. Para 2 is adopted. Para 3, are there any objections to the adoption of para 3? I see none. Para 3 is adopted. Para 4, are there any objections to the adoption of para 4? I see none. Para 4 is adopted. Para 5, are there any objections to the adoption of para 5? I see none. Para 5 is adopted. Para 6, are there any objections to the adoption of para 6? I see none. Para 6 is adopted. Para 7, are there any objections to the adoption of para 7? I see none. Para 7 is adopted. Now we go to the amendments. There is a request to move para 8 into 9. Argentina, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Había pedido la palabra cuando estábamos antes de empezar con el análisis del proyecto para hacer un comentario general. Lo quiero hacer ahora porque tiene que ver con las enmiendas. Nuestro espíritu es realmente reforzar el centro, realmente hacer lo que todos queremos hacer. Nuestra única duda es cómo y dónde lo debemos hacer. Si hubiera antes de empezar palabra por palabra y coma por coma, si hay algo que no corresponda a este comité y que pueda corresponder ni siquiera a la Asamblea de las Partes, sino a la Conferencia General o al Consejo Ejecutivo, vamos a llamar la atención. Lo que queremos es reforzar el centro, por lo tanto, la aclaración que nos hizo la Secretaría hace unos minutos es muy útil en el sentido que si hay un lenguaje ya establecido, ese lenguaje lo podemos usar y si no, tenemos que discutirlo en otro lugar, no en este lugar. Por eso quería hacer esta intervención antes de empezar cada palabra de esta enmienda, que el objetivo lo compartimos, es reforzar, agradecer y seguir utilizando el centro. Pero cómo lo hacemos es una cuestión de terminología y no quisiéramos entrar en un error en esta sesión. Muchas gracias.
Argentina, from what I understand, you wanted to intervene on the para that is going to be amended. We are right now on para 8, which says thanks the state party. So para 8 is the old para, the new para 8 is the old para 9, and that has been shifted down. So is there any objection to the adoption of this new para 8? Qatar, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Juste, on est un peu convaincu euh, de la demande de notre collègue de l'Argentine. Est-ce que il est d'accord? C'est que on a compris, c'est remplacer le paragraphe 9 et remonter vers le paragraphe 8. C'est ce que j'ai compris. Est-ce qu'il est d'accord ou non? Sinon, pour qu'on puisse avancer, je pense que nécessaire de clarifier la discussion.
Thank you. I think that is a very good question. Argentina, first of all, are you okay with switching this paras or not? Argentina, you have the floor.
Sí, señor presidente. Hay un problema técnico que queremos aclarar. No nos ven desde el estrado. La palabra la habíamos pedido mucho antes, por eso usé esta oportunidad cuando empezamos con las enmiendas para hacer algo que queríamos hacer antes. Estamos de acuerdo en que se siga tal como usted, señor presidente, lo dijo. No tenemos objeciones, solo que cuando entremos a analizar cada uno de los cambios que vienen, los artículos que vienen, ahí sí queremos ser muy cuidadosos con este mensaje general, que es respetemos el lenguaje ya acordado y si tenemos que hacer algo nuevo, tal vez este no sea el ámbito adecuado. Muchas gracias.
Okay, so right now we are at the point of change. Up to now, we have not changed anything. And I understand that when a change has been proposed at that point in time, you want to intervene. So that point has arrived. The question is very specific. Are you okay with the interchange or not? If you're not, then it's good. If you're okay, please let us know. That's also good. So, are you okay with the interchange? Okay. Qatar, he's okay with the interchange as of now. Would you like to? It's okay? All right. So, the new para 8, which has been, are you okay for the adoption of the new para 8 as it is appearing in only the number 8 is appearing in blue? Thanks the state parties that have provided georeference data. So there is no change in the wording as proposed by the Secretariat. The only change is it is being shifted up and down. So if I don't see any comments or observations, I will be accepting this para. Are there any objections? No. The para 8 is adopted. Now we go to the para 9, which is an amendment. This is St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Kenya have moved the original para 8 down to 9. So can we have the original wording in black instead of having the entire thing in blue? Only the original wording I require it to be in black so we understand. Okay. Now we are on the original para 8 which has been moved down. There is no change in the wording as suggested by the Secretariat originally. Can we adopt this para, the new para 9, which is moved down of old para 8? Are there any objections? No. I see none. Para 9 is adopted. Now we go down to the amendments, which have been suggested by St. Vincent and the Grenadines and supported by Kenya. Notes with concern. St. Vincent and the Grenadines to be followed by Greece and Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After listening to the HG culture, maybe we can the aim it was not to say that the center is not really sustainable, but when I have read what it's saying in paragraph 118 and 119, there are many constraints and problems. Even we said that there is a widening gap between available resources and the workload of the secretariat, and this is a very big problem. So maybe we can just remove the wording sustainability, and we can express our concern regarding the World Heritage Center while it is facing growing financial and capacity constraints, as well as the increasing technical complexity of conservation related issues, which is mentioned in paragraph 118. Thank you.
I will give the floor now to Greece, to be followed by Belgium.
Thank you, Chair. And I think that the intervention made by our colleague from Grenadines goes to the right direction, though I feel a little bit uncomfortable with the wording regarding the World Heritage Center. Maybe we talk about programs implemented by the World Heritage Center, but not the center itself, or the activities of the center, but not the center itself. But I can live with the latest change proposed by the author. Thank you.
Belgium, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, on the outset, I would like to thank the distinguished delegate of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to raise this important issue. It is indeed known that we have an increasing workload, and availability of resources is at risk at times. So therefore, it is an important debate. So we agree with this text, but we would like to suggest maybe a small amendment that would also maybe answer to the concerns of Greece. That is, if we would change, fulfill its mandate into implement the 1972 convention, then we can maybe address the concern that was expressed by Greece. And for us, that would, if agreeable to the committee, we would have maybe a better text that way. Thank you.
Thank you. I will let the editors put in the right text. Okay. I now give the floor to Vietnam. You have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We highly appreciate the flexibility of our colleague from Grenadine, Saint Vincent and Grenadine. We wish to suggest another amendment that may goes that notes we concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact the effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. And also, we can live with a proposal from Belgium to implement a 1972 convention, and that the World Heritage Center is facing growing financial and capacity constraints, as well as the increasing technical complexity of the conservation related issues.
So do you support the Belgium amendment to
Yes.
replace the word ability to fulfill its mandate with the words ability to implement the 1972 convention? So you can add the name of Vietnam next to Belgium. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency. I see India has raised the floor, and then Kenya. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Though I understand where is this coming from, but I'm slightly confused, and I just thought I'll seek a clarification from the Secretariat or from the Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. The first part of this amendment talks about the challenges that are being faced by the World Heritage Convention or its implementation. And the second part focuses more on the growing financial and capacity constraints. And this was what the report from the director also indicated. But we have an open-ended working group, which is looking into the reflections on the World Heritage Convention. We've had several meetings in this regard, and it is an inconclusive, I would say, or rather not inconclusive, it's in a continuing discussion. It is proposed to be extended to another, I would say, by another year. So, is it appropriate at the moment to make a remark like this when we are still debating and discussing? Because this has come all of a sudden. We would also need time to reflect on it and see what is the more appropriate text to be inserted here. So I just thought I'll seek this clarification before we proceed in actually looking into the micro aspects of correcting or amending the text further. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You are seeking clarification from the Secretariat and the delegate. So first, I'll give the floor to ADG Culture, and thereafter, I will give the floor to the St. Vincent and Grenadines with a request to Kenya to please permit me to do so because I had taken your name before that. But since there's a question, Mr. ADG Culture, you have the floor.
Gracias, presidente. Voy a expresar en español. A ver, lo que pasa con esta propuesta es que, como lo dije, la primera parte, si usted lo ven, responde directamente al informe de iOS. Se hace referencia, tal como usted lo dijo, como representante de la India, a la convención. Y textualmente, la frase que está puesta ahí es sacada del número 117. Perdón, del número 115. Sin embargo, la segunda parte mezcla cosas que se refieren a la convención y cosas que se refieren a las complejidades que tiene el secretariado. Si ustedes ven, cuando se habla del tema financiero, se habla de la convención, porque el tema del financiamiento no es solamente del secretariado, es de toda la convención. La convención son ustedes, son el secretariado, son los managers de los sitios, somos todos. Por lo tanto, no podemos extraer lo que nos gusta para ponérselo al secretariado. No, es un problema de la convención como tal. La falta de recursos no es una falta de recursos solamente del secretariado, es una falta de recursos, los site managers, el capacity building, todo lo que no logramos hacer, falta de recursos. Cosa que está puesta en el número 11 que se propuso, que es el secretariado, cómo reforzarlo. Pero cuando ustedes ponen ahora con estas propuestas de cambio, hay algo raro perdón que lo diga, con la propuesta de Bélgica. Estamos hablando que que la Convención del Patrimonio está enfrentado a diferentes problemas para implementar la convención. O sea, estamos diciendo que la convención no logra implementar la convención, lo cual no es cierto. La convención está siendo implementada. Se está encontrando frente a ciertos desafíos, porque pasamos de 560 sitios a 1199. Por lo tanto, la primera parte, le podemos insistir, lo están tomando del texto inicial del iOS, por lo tanto, nadie está discutiendo y son las palabras exactas reproducidas. Cuando dice que si seguimos así podría no cumplir su mandato en integridad, yo diría, pero bueno, eso no lo dice el texto. Con respecto a la segunda parte, hay una confusión, porque se toman elementos que se refieren a la convención y se toman elementos que se refieren a los problemas inherentes de cualquier secretariado, de cualquier convención, con el presupuesto actual de la UNESCO. Por lo tanto, lo que yo les propongo es que no se compliquen más de la cuenta. Hay un informe de iOS, la primera parte es perfecta, está textualmente puesto, no hay ningún cambio. En vez de la segunda, se está interpretando cosas que iOS no dijo, que es con respecto a que estamos muy preocupados con respecto a las actividades o al centro. Eso no lo dice. Están preocupados por no tener las capacidades como convención, es decir, de todas las entidades, de poder enfrentarse a los problemas financieros que están viniendo y a las capacidades que tenemos con todas las introducciones que ustedes han hecho en los últimos años. Estamos hablando del Preliminary Assessment, estamos hablando, acuérdense que esto lo han creado ustedes. Entonces, en este sentido, y lo último que termino, efectivamente, agradezco al representante de la India, recordar que hay un proceso de diálogo de los Estados miembros para ver cómo se mejora. Entonces, preamptar o presumir el resultado de las propuestas que van a venir de ustedes mismos, me parece que de repente podría esperarse para ver cómo termina ese grupo, que además se le pidió seguir haciendo este análisis por la complejidad de lo que significa para el futuro de esta convención. Eso es lo que quería expresar para tratar de explicar, pero si efectivamente empezamos a cambiar palabras, vamos a terminar con un pequeño Frankenstein, lamentablemente creo. Eso, señor presidente. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, ADG Culture, for that detailed explanation. I now give the floor to the representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mr. Chair. No. Mr. Chair, I think Kenya asked for the floor before me. I am not sure.
The last I checked was that I am the chair.
Okay.
And I have given you the floor after seeking permission from Kenya. So I request you to please focus. The reason why I'm giving you the floor is because the distinguished representative of India asked a specific questions to the Secretariat as well as to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And thereafter, I asked the Kenyan delegate that although I had taken their name first, but because this question has been asked and the Secretariat has responded, it's only fair that I give you also the opportunity to respond, and then I go to Kenya. Is that acceptable to you? Thank you. You may still continue to have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I think that I agree with ADG Culture that we should leave the wording as it is in the paragraph 115 to fulfill its mandate and its in iOS report. So we should keep maybe to fulfill its mandate. For the second part, I agree with the proposal of Vietnam saying that the World Heritage Center is facing growing financial and capacity constraints as well as the increasing technical complexity because, Mr. Chair, it is a reality. It is written in the document that there are a lot of constraints for the Secretariat. When we talk about the World Heritage Center, it is the Secretariat of the Convention. And I know that there is an open-ended working group, but the open-ended group is not, maybe we'll not discuss about all these things, but the committee is sovereign and we can express also our concerns or our comments and to add our comments on the functioning of the convention. And we do prefer to keep the second part of the sentence just to draw the attention that there is growing financial capacity constraints, and this will be justify paragraph 11. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Kenya, followed by Argentina. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This being my first time to address this esteemed committee, I would want on behalf of the Republic of Kenya to express our deepest gratitude to the government of India for being very generous and for hosting us in an unprecedented way. Thank you so much. On this particular issue, I only have 2 points to make. The gist of the matter, as has been emphasized before, is the fact that we are responding to item 5A, a report of the World Heritage Center and its activities and implementation of the World Heritage Committee decisions. And we observe here that the World Heritage Center has been allocated an enormous responsibility to steer us in the implementation of the 1972 Convention. 195 members cannot be an easy assignment, and all that we are saying together with the other state parties is that we've observed the weight that we carry on one hand, the complexity of it, and also the financial responsibilities that go with this critical assignment. So as we edit this, that is really the spirit of what we are looking at. It's my considered opinion that the last part of this paragraph is repetitive. The point is already made by the time you get to conservation-related issues. If you look at it, the point is already made by the time you get to issues. So the last part tends to be kind of repetitive. Thank you, Chair.
Do we understand that you desire that the last part be striked out, Kenya? We need to be
Yes.
specific.
Yes, please.
I request the editors to kindly implement what Kenya has said. Strike out the last part. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Argentina. You have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Cuando intervinimos en la oportunidad anterior era para evitar esto. Queremos hacer ahora un pedido concreto. Separemos el párrafo. El párrafo 10 que quede exactamente, sin ninguna modificación, lo que ya está aceptado, que es lo que dijo el iOS, y separamos el problema, que es la segunda parte. Estamos de acuerdo, si se dividen los párrafos, también en eliminarlo, pero queremos primero que se separe. El lenguaje de iOS es muy claro y creemos que debe estar. Por otra parte, mi delegación no tiene absolutamente ninguna preocupación con el centro, ninguna. Sabemos que van a hacer todo lo que están haciendo, el problema es con qué lo van a hacer. Entonces ahí sí podemos tener una preocupación, pero no es con el centro. Por eso queremos que se separe y se mantenga el lenguaje del iOS en el que todos estamos de acuerdo, y después veamos el otro tema, que es cómo el centro va a hacer lo que a nosotros no nos preocupa. Es un problema que vamos a resolver. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Argentina. I now give the floor to Japan, followed by Qatar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having listened to the intervention by India, also explanation by ADG Culture, I echo with the view of the distinguished ambassador of Kenya in striking out the second part of the paragraph 10. I think that the first part of the paragraph 10 is comprehensive enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Qatar.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Ma délégation veut intervenir en exprimant vraiment notre position. Après avoir bien écouté Monsieur le CDG pour la culture, explication profonde et toutes les délégations précédentes, ma délégation veut garder vraiment la position de préoccupation, ce qui était bien sûr mentionné tout d'abord dans le rapport, et d'autre part, vraiment sortira, parce que cette préoccupation, bien évidemment, nous partageons avec le secrétariat de la Convention représenté par le centre, c'est qu'on est d'accord, et la préoccupation, c'est pas sur les travaux et sur les efforts du centre. Je voudrais juste clarifier, je pense, à cette situation. La préoccupation, vraiment, c'est les ressources, sur les ressources et les moyens. Et c'est pas la capacité, c'est pas les efforts du centre même. C'est la raison pourquoi ma délégation vous gardez vraiment l'expression de préoccupation d'une part, et d'autre part, et gardez bien sûr la mention le centre de patrimoine mondial qui représente l'exécution, la mise en œuvre aussi de la convention, ça va faciliter l'expression, je pense, dans le texte. Et c'est pour ça, nous partageons ensemble vraiment, entre nous et le centre, cette préoccupation. nous voulons renforcer le rôle de centre. Et deuxièmement, on peut partir avec cette réflexion de comité aussi, parce que on a, je pense que l'habilité de prendre des décisions à ce comité. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Can I ask the editors to make a new para as suggested by Argentina? Can you put it on a separate line so you have an understanding? Okay. Now, if we consider the old para 10, how it appears, notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate or implement the 1972 convention. So there are two options: ability to fulfill its mandate or ability to implement the 1972 convention. St. Vincent and the St. Vincent, SVG, and Kenya had originally suggested to fulfill its mandate, but Belgium and Vietnam supported the idea to replace that with the words to implement the 1972 convention. Belgium, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very short and make your life easier. We have no strong feelings about our suggestion, so we can go along with the initial text. If that's agreeable to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I assume Vietnam would also have no objection.
No.
All right. So now the text stands as notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. Is there any objection to this draft amendment text that appears as para 10? I see none. Para 10 is adopted. We go to para 11 as Argentina had suggested to put it in the new para. Argentina, would you like to suggest a beginning for this para? You have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. No queremos sugerir texto, simplemente queríamos que quedara claro y gracias a la comprensión de las demás delegaciones que no hagamos nuevo lenguaje. El párrafo 10 estaba muy bien y ahora seguimos el debate con el lenguaje que se proponga con las consideraciones que hicimos antes. Vamos a pedir la palabra si hubiera que intervenir nuevamente para cambiar. Gracias.
Thank you, thank you, Argentina. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, again for giving India the floor. May I request if the para 10 is once again put back on the screen? Thank you. If you look at the para 10, which has been agreed by everyone, in fact, the para 11 that has now been suggested is actually already subsumed in para 10. If we're talking about that there is a concern that there are challenges wherein we're looking at its impact on fulfilling the mandate. Basically, the capacity constraints, the financial constraints, the technical complexities that we are talking about. In fact, it is not only the technical complexities. There is much more to it. In the report presented by the Director of World Heritage Center, he indicated 28 or 29 initiatives that have been taken. So there's much more to it. But para 10, I think that it incorporates whatever we are trying to say in para 11. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So the distinguished delegate from India is saying that the para 10 suggested by St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Kenya is a complete para that covers it, and para 11 may not be necessary. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, would you agree to that? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we showed a lot of flexibility and we have done a lot of compromises. We accepted to remove the wording sustainability, and then now we don't have any more expresses its concerns, and we left a paragraph without any introduction. I mean, we have to say that the World Heritage is facing growing financial and capacity constraints. It is also a reality. As I have said, I don't want to repeat the same things. And this will justify also the following paragraph, especially that why we are putting this here, because we are preparing the 43C5 and we have to accept this reality, and it is said here, it is clear. So I prefer to start the paragraph with notes, also notes that the World Heritage Center is facing. I do prefer to keep them in one paragraph, but also we had done compromises. So we should say something, because I am sure that open-ended working group, as has been said by India, will also think about it, but we are now preparing the 43C5. The preliminary proposals will be presented at the next executive board in October. So it is time to reflect on the financial situation and to help the center, because the center is implementing the convention. Thank you.
Also notes. Editors, the distinguished representative had said also notes. Now, the Indian delegate had said that the World Heritage notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges. Now, growing financial capacity constraints are also significant challenges. Increasing technical complexity is also a significant challenge. Conservation related issues is also a significant challenge. So, if this were an English a course, one would say that it is technically and grammatically, it is already covered in para 10 what it appears. And I think the delegate of India was trying to promote that, but the delegate of St. Vincent wants to keep that para as it is. I see that uh, Mexico, but the delegate of India has again raised the floor. Is it in continuation of this, India? So I can give you the floor because I wanted to give it to Mexico, but is it in continuation to what St. Vincent said? Yes, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll respect the protocol and I would rather have Mexico take the floor first, and then of course,
All
it
right.
is in
All
continuation,
right.
but I'll
We give the
take it
floor to
later.
Mexico. That is only because of the love that India has for Mexico.
Le agradezco mucho, señor presidente. Nosotros también amamos a la India. A ver, creo que hay que aclarar algo. La implementación de la convención, y lo dijo, si no me estoy equivocando, lo dejó muy claro el señor Otone. La convención la aplicamos todos, la implementamos todos. No es un tema exclusivo de que el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial la implemente. Somos todos los estados parte los comprometidos para la correcta implementación de esta convención. El párrafo 10 ya lo está mencionando, la problemática que tiene de implementarse la convención, y estamos conscientes de que esa problemática repercute no solo en los estados parte, sino en el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial. Mas el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial no es el encargado de la conservación de los sitios, son los estados parte. Así de que creo que sí deberíamos dejar en claro que la problemática la enfrenta la Convención del Patrimonio Mundial, que somos todos, y es el tema que debemos de tratar. Yo no lo llevaría solamente al tema financiero, sino al fortalecimiento de las capacidades técnicas, y se recuerda el director del Centro del Patrimonio Mundial, yo hice la propuesta durante el grupo de trabajo, las sesiones del grupo de trabajo, que los países tenemos instituciones fuertes en el ámbito de la conservación del patrimonio, podíamos cooperar plenamente a ese fortalecimiento de capacidades. Gracias.
Thank you. Right now I'm looking specifically at editorial changes and suggestions that specifically deal with the English words or French. I request the editors to put on a next para without a number the words Kenya, Japan, delete, and thereafter. Without a number, right? So the para that we are looking at is also notes. Para 10 was notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. Also notes that the World Heritage Center is facing growing financial and capacity constraints as well as the increasing technical complexity of conservation related issues. Uh, I think I'll give the floor to India to be followed by Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Uh, I don't want to sort of prolong this discussion, but I still want to reiterate a point very respectfully. Uh, what uh, what the Saint Vincent and the Grenadines expressed. I think we are aware of the fact that you've put a hammer on the point 10 and the 11 is under discussion, but it is only once we read the point 11 that we realized that the two are so sort of intricately interlinked. I still have a feeling that these paras can be merged rather than be separated. Now that we've seen both the wordings, all we need to do is in paragraph 10, if we add after several significant changes, comma, including financial and capacity constraints, comma, and then we go on. It basically incorporates or subsumes all that we are trying to say in para 11 into para 10. So it's something we're just trying to simplify it, yet communicate whatever is being whatever is the intention of this paragraph. Thank you, Chair.
Well, it's a good proposal, what you're saying, but when Argentina wanted it a new para, you didn't oppose, and when before we hit the hammer, you didn't say anything. So I leave it to the House. If right now we are at para 11, if the wisdom of the House feels that you can include it, then I'm in your hands, and we can include it. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. Would you like before I give to Vietnam? Vietnam first. I'll give to you. You have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just thought that really our Indian colleague has read my mind, and we have the same suggestion like the Indian colleague, that including financial and capacity constraints. So in the paragraph 10, we can incorporate the issues of our concern from paragraph 11. So really reflects, I think, the feelings of the group, of the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Vietnam. I'll now ask St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Can they live with that, or we are in your hands, SVG?
Mr. Chair, I think it is a good proposal because it covers our concerns when we add here financial and capacity constraints. We are fine with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please add SVG's name to it. Kenya, would you also be comfortable with that?
Yes, most obliged, Chair.
Thank you. Qatar, would you also be comfortable with that? Okay. Mexico, would you be comfortable with that? Okay. Please strike. Argentina, would you also be comfortable? Okay. Please strike out para 11. Right. And para 10, we are amending it again. How it stands notes with concern that the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges, including financial and capacity constraints that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. Are there any objections for its adoption? And Belgium, you have the floor.
I do apologize to take the floor again, Mr. Chair, but it's a bit confusing to us that the convention fulfills its own mandate. So I think that part of the phrase was also related to the center. I don't want to make things more complex, but if you read it, so the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges, including financial and capacity constraints that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. So I think it's just a bit strange to adopt this phrase as saying that the convention is fulfilling its own mandate. In a way of when you addressed earlier the grammar issue, I'm not talking about really the content. I think the spirit is fine with us, but I do think that this is a phrase that is somehow not correct as such.
Why don't you discover the Shakespeare in us and help us out to? You have the floor, Belgium. Please help us out with the wording that would satisfy all the House, or rather, it's India that is going to help us. Would you like to help after considering what the distinguished delegate of Belgium has suggested? India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's been very aptly put by the distinguished delegate of Belgium. It indeed needs a slight more modification, and we should say notes with concern that the implementation of the, and then rest of the sentence continues. I hope this is fine with everyone present here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is this okay with everyone present here? St. Vincent and the Grenadines? You have the floor.
Always count on the Indian wisdom. It's very good proposal. And we went from the concerns from the World Heritage Center, and now we are in the implementation of the convention, but also the intervention of Mexico also was very interesting because the convention includes the secretariat, the states parties, the advisory bodies, everyone. So we are all mobilized. Thank you.
Thank you, and I thank Belgium for having brought it to our attention that now the para stands at as notes with concern that the implementation of the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges, including financial and capacity constraints that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. Are there any objections before we? Argentina, I see you have raised your plate. Is there something earth shattering? Or you can live with this? You have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Gracias, señor presidente. Solo una preocupación para el futuro de esta reunión. Cuando un párrafo ya fue adoptado, no estamos en desacuerdo con los cambios que se están haciendo, pero sí con que se reabran párrafos ya adoptados. Esto nos puede llevar a una complicación en el futuro de nuestras conversaciones o negociaciones. Es solo eso. El espíritu que queremos mantener es el lenguaje ya acordado, estaba acordado antes de venir aquí a la India y estamos discutiendo nuevas cosas, que es cómo el centro va a seguir sus actividades y nosotros, repito, no tenemos ninguna preocupación sobre el futuro, solamente que queremos ayudar a que el centro lo haga. Nos hubiera gustado más que el párrafo adoptado siga siendo adoptado ahora y siempre. Nos ha pasado en miles de reuniones lo mismo. No queremos sentar un precedente que un párrafo se reabre. Nada más que eso, señor presidente. Sobre el fondo de la cuestión no tenemos objeciones.
Yeah, we have not adopted the entire para as a whole. Vietnam, are you right now? My question is very specific to the. We had asked the question: should we go back to the para? Is it okay for everyone at that point in time? Nobody raised any objections or comments, so that is the reason we went back. And now that we are coming at the finalization, I will not open the floor for that discussion right now. Should have we gone back or not? Because that question was asked. Now, my question right now is very specific to this point. Is this text acceptable, or would anyone like to make any suggestions to it? That is the only question I want answered right now. Vietnam, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We highly appreciate the proposal from our Indian colleague that we have the implementation of World Heritage Convention. But the problem now is that the later part that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate. So what's it's here? So that's why we wish to suggest some amendment that maybe the later phrase that impact its effectiveness and ability to fulfill its mandate is not necessary to be here, so we can delete this part. That's our proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The rapporteur, would you like to help out?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would suggest, echoing the proposition of Vietnam, deleting ability to fulfill its mandate and putting a comma after effectiveness, because the we're talking about the effectiveness of the implementation of the convention. So for a question of correctness of the proposition, I would stop the para at effectiveness.
So the para now stands, notes with concern that the implementation of the World Heritage Convention faces several significant challenges, including financial and capacity constraints that impact its effectiveness. Is that okay? Are there any objections? Before we adopt this, I see none. Para 10 is adopted. We go to the next para. The new para 11. The 12 will become 11. 10. And the number 12 will become Okay, invites the Director General to enforce the World Heritage Center, notably by allocating more UNESCO financial and human resources to the World Heritage Center, and by supporting its fundraising activities from the private sector, civil society, multilateral funds, and institutions in line with UNESCO's financial rules and regulations. Are there any objections or comments before we adopt this amended para? I see none. Para 11 is adopted. Go to para 12. Are there any objections to the adoption of para 12? I see none. Para 12 is adopted. Para 13. Are there any objections to the adoption of para 13? I see none. Para 13 is adopted. We have adopted all the paras individually. Is there any objection for the entire decision to be adopted as a whole? If the editors could scroll slowly. And just delete the suggestions so that they can read properly. Yeah, continue scrolling. Scroll down. Scroll. Yeah. Are there any objections to the adoption of this decision as a whole? I see none. I therefore declare draft decision 46.5a adopted as amended. Thank you. I now declare agenda item 5a closed. Excellencies, dear colleagues, our next item on the agenda is a report of the three advisory bodies to the World Heritage Committee, ICROM, ICOMOS, and IUCN, on their activities. These comprehensive reports are presented in document 40 WHC/24/46.com/5b. We will hear from the three advisory bodies first before moving to the discussion and examination of the draft decision. Without any further delay, I would like to invite the Director General of ICROM, Ms. Aruna Francesca Maria Gujral, to briefly present its report. You have the floor.
Hello? No, now yes. Yeah, sorry for that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, Your Excellency Vishal Sharma. Allow me to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Government of India for hosting this very important World Heritage Committee session here in Delhi. New Delhi has a special place in our hearts, as ICROM was actually born exactly in New Delhi in 1956 during the 9th session of UNESCO General Conference. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am Aruna Francesca Maria Gujral, Italo-Indian, and I am the Director General of ICROM. Namaste. Good afternoon to all. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests. ICCROM plays a key role in the conservation, preservation, and management of cultural heritage worldwide by providing essential capacity building within the World Heritage Convention. I thank all the distinguished committee members and state parties for their continued support to the conservation, protection, and management of World Heritage. As advisory body to the World Heritage Committee, ICCROM provides technical and policy assistance to the statutory processes of the Convention, and in particular, to the fundamental capacity building work that directly serves World Heritage properties and state parties. ICCROM supports the drafting and revision of the state of conservation reports for cultural and mixed sites, participates in the periodic reporting cycles, reviews the international assistance request, undertakes reactive monitoring and advisory missions, attends statutory policy and technical meetings of the Convention, and coordinates the publication of the resource manuals. The capacity building work of ICCROM directly responds to the needs and feedback gained from the statutory processes, ensuring that the content developed and shared is in line with the priority areas. ICCROM's work on World Heritage is primarily coordinated through the World Heritage Leadership Program, jointly delivered with IUCN. I take this opportunity to emphasize that the World Heritage Leadership Program is a program entirely funded by voluntary contributions and that operates outside the scope of the World Heritage Fund, where the funds come directly to the advisory bodies for capacity building. I am therefore sincerely grateful to all the donor countries and partners, especially to the government of Norway, for their continued support, now counting the 8th year, providing vital voluntary contributions which have allowed the delivery of the program over the past years. I also wish to thank the government of the Republic of Korea for continuing funding the World Heritage Management course and Impact Assessment courses, and the government of Switzerland for supporting activities for the Enhancing Our Heritage Toolkit 2.0. I also wish to thank the Australian government for providing the funds for the development of a climate action toolkit, jointly developed with UNESCO and the 3 advisory bodies altogether. I'm also thankful to those states parties who have undertaken the translations of the resource manuals to make them available and accessible in more languages. Distinguished delegates, the technical expertise of ICCROM can be better utilized, but it needs to be further enhanced to deliver better and more services. Capacity building needs to be implemented differently from other statutory procedures with flexibility, agile delivery mechanism, and targeted content that can timely respond to the evolving needs of the recipients while reporting to and aligning with the decision of the committee. For this to happen, we need to have a more sustainable financial resources coming directly for capacity building and technical working processes and mechanisms established in order to be more effective, efficient, and responsive, with the ultimate goal to timely provide greater unboosted capacity building as we all know the demand and needs are clearly growing. Over the past few months, I have followed very closely the discussion of the open-ended working group, and I have noted the strong request and need for capacity building coming from state parties. I particularly note the point requesting existing and new capacity building programs to be reviewed and that a mechanism to be established to strengthen their funding and coordination to ensure sustainable results focusing on SIDS, Africa, under and non-represented states parties in nomination, in line with processes and requirements of the Convention. The results and impacts of the World Heritage Leadership Program and the ICCROM Youth Heritage Africa Program, focusing on all types of heritage in the African continent, strongly demonstrate the need to have specialized capacity building delivered through a more strategic, programmatic approach with longer-term impact and durable solutions on the ground. Those activities need to be expanded and better supported through the World Heritage System. A dedicated capacity building program and delivery mechanism has to be built with practitioners and institutions working on sites beyond diplomatic relations and meetings. To ensure that the content is in line with the procedures and requirements needed for World Heritage, ICCROM coordinates the production of various manuals and guidelines in collaboration with ICOMOS, IUCN, and the World Heritage Center, and shares the content of these resources through the design and implementation of learning activities such as courses, fora, workshops, and, and also in collaboration with the Category 2 centers. The ongoing sixth edition of the World Heritage Sites Managers Forum is indeed a great example, serving as a key milestone activity to connect all sites together. ICCROM's capacity building interventions can be tailored to the specific needs of the context with different duration and modalities, spanning across multiple languages and across continents, adopting and contextualizing globally renowned tools, standards, and models as tailored and local solutions. We focus inter alia on World Heritage Management effectiveness assessment, World Heritage Impact Assessment, disaster risk management, climate action, conservation of built heritage. Other ICROM innovative and highly in-demand programs focus on building capacity in the cultural creative economy sector in Africa towards transformative socioeconomic growth for local communities, targeting youth and women. And, for example, in the first aid and resilience building in times of crisis, polycrisis, natural hazards such as climate change, and man-made disasters. Our scaling up capacity building projects in Ukraine and in other parts of the world are a concrete example. Our comprehensive work enables individual heritage practitioners, institutions, and communities to become change agents for management and conservation of world heritage. I vividly encourage and ask all states parties to the Convention to provide the necessary means and funding to sustainably enable site managers and the site management institutions to actively participate in capacity building programs. Through these activities, indeed, we nurture a new generation of professionals who can contribute to the various working processes of the Convention. Supporting sustained capacity building is the fastest and most efficient way of ensuring the sustainability of all our collective actions. In our ongoing work to revise the capacity building strategy for World Heritage together with UNESCO, we will endeavor to ensure that the needed mechanism and working processes are established for capacity building. We in ICROM strongly advocate for having a dedicated funding mechanism to be established for capacity building for World Heritage that can serve as a strong backbone foundational for maintaining and boosting the work and the multiple co-benefits of the World Heritage Convention. I profoundly thank all our partners and
Please
donors.
conclude. We have other advisory bodies as well, and the time allocated is been only 3 to 5 minutes each, which is 300 or 500 words maximum.
Thank you, sir. I'm
Thank you.
about to finish.
Conclude.
Necessary funding to technical and time support necessary to keep up our capacity building work, and I kindly plead others to join to make our capacity building programs more sustained, more sustainable, and more impactful. To get closer and faster to the growing needs of our member states. Investing in capacity building for the conservation of our shared heritage is not only a good thing to do for our present, it is our shared responsibility for the generation to come. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. As per the World Heritage Center, the time allocated to the advisory bodies is specifically only 3 to 5 minutes each. Assuming we read at 100 words a minute, this would mean a text that is 300 to 500 words. That's it. George Bernard Shaw, the great English author, once wrote to a friend of his, "Please forgive me for writing a long letter to you because I did not have a time to shorten it." So we need to develop the art to limit how much we say without affecting the substance of it, and that is the art of writing and reading. Yesterday, I was given an allocated time, and I 10 times I practiced my statement before speaking, and I got my seconds also correct. So this means we all request that. So now it's my pleasure to first thank ICROM for their detailed reporting. And now it's my pleasure to invite the president of ECOMOS, Ms. Teresa Patricio, to briefly present her report. ECOMOS has been given a time of 3 to 5 minutes maximum, and WHC has written the words max in capital. So you have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Monsieur le Président, je vais me adresser en français, si vous le permettez. Mesdames les ambassadrices, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, chers collègues et amis du patrimoine, Namasté. C'est un honneur de vous présenter le travail mené par l'ICOMOS pour la Convention du patrimoine mondial au cours de la dernière année. Sans entrer dans le détail, puisque le rapport complet des activités de l'ICOMOS figure dans les documents diffusés par le secrétariat, je voudrais commencer par remercier les États parties avec lesquels nous avons amené à travailler en 2023 et 2024 pour leur coopération et souvent par leur flexibilité, que ce soit pour l'organisation de missions d'évaluation ou l'élaboration de rapports d'état de conservation souhaités, parfois dans des situations difficiles. Il nous a souvent fallu nous adapter ensemble à des circonstances variées, mais cependant, ça a été toujours très enrichissant. Je voudrais également souligner l'importance et les effets bénéfiques de nouveaux espaces d'échange et de dialogue entre les États parties et organisations consultatives. Dans ce cadre, l'ICOMOS a activement contribué à élargir sa collaboration avec les États parties. Vous aurez certainement constaté à la lecture du rapport de l'ICOMOS que les activités de conseil, qu'il s'agisse de conseils en amont sur des nominations en cours de préparation, qu'il s'agisse d'ateliers de travail sous les listes indicatives ou de missions consultatives en lien avec des projets de conservation et de développement, se sont significativement développés au cours des dernières années. Dans la mesure où ils facilitent le dialogue entre les experts nationaux et experts internationaux et permettent, le cas échéant, de mieux anticiper les difficultés. Ces échanges sont extrêmement fructueux. Le retour d'expérience en atteste clairement. La réforme du processus d'évaluation avec la mise en œuvre de l'analyse préliminaire et le soutien aux sites inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril, afin de les aider à être retirés de cette liste, ont été aussi deux aspects particulièrement importants de notre travail cette année. L'ICOMOS reste à la disposition des États parties pour déployer tous les efforts possibles en vue de leur prêter assistance par le biais d'ateliers d'experts et de renforcement des capacités, de conseils en amont et d'assistance consultative, en accordant une attention particulière aux États parties sous-représentés sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. ICOMOS a été particulièrement active pour la promotion et la conservation du patrimoine culturel en Afrique. Servir la conservation du patrimoine mondial est donc au cœur des missions de l'ICOMOS. L'ensemble de notre réseau d'experts, on a environ 12 000 experts dans 132 pays, constitués exclusivement, et permettez-moi de vous le dire, de professionnels du patrimoine engagés sur une base du bénévolat, y est profondément dédié. Cependant, il serait impossible de terminer aujourd'hui sans partager avec vous nos craintes concernant l'insuffisance des ressources allouées à la mise en œuvre de la Convention par le biais du Fonds du patrimoine mondial. Pour une organisation comme la nôtre, c'est une inquiétude profonde, car il nous semble que c'est désormais la pérennité de la Convention qui est directement menacée. En vous remerciant, Monsieur le Président, pour ce temps de parole, je reste prête à répondre aux questions éventuelles. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS, for your fruitful presentation. I will now invite the representative of IUCN, Mr. Tim Badman. Actually, he's very good to take the floor on the subject. IUCN, it's written 3 to 5 minutes by WHC, and the word max is in capital, so you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as IUCN, we congratulate you on your appointment. Thank India for the organization of this meeting. And I bring the committee the support of IUCN's recently appointed Director General, Dr. Gretel Aguilar, who took up her position in October 2023. We've established and re-established a distinct World Heritage team in IUCN to increase our focus on World Heritage and to extend connections with UNESCO on all of our shared priorities. IUCN continues our direct financial support as well as our significant in-kind support to the work of this convention, and I'd like to thank all of IUCN's commission experts who provide additional considerable voluntary support, as well as the work of our partners in the Union for Geological Sciences and other earth science organizations, UNEP WCMC, and we welcome the growing role of the Indigenous Peoples Forum, as we've just heard under the previous item. Thanks also to the collaboration with the World Heritage Centre. Mr. Chair, IUCN's regional and country offices have a growing role in IUCN's new World Heritage Strategy, which was launched at the committee last year. I'd like to thank in this instance the support of the IUCN Asia region for our delegation represented by Mr. Yashvir Bhatnagar, our country representative for India today. And as a diverse international IUCN delegation, we look forward to many constructive discussions here at 46COM. Our report before you notes positive overall results firstly, for which we give thanks for nature from the 45th session, and emphasizes the positive experience of returning to in presentia meetings. We're pleased also that between the last meeting and this, we finally caught up with almost all of the delays to evaluations due to COVID-19. We also note that in line with the goal to strengthen regional engagement, this year the IUCN World Heritage Panel for the first time took place in an IUCN regional office, and this is a tendency that we intend to continue wherever feasible and possible. We're also acting on the proposals for regional balance, and note at present the largest regional representation on the IUCN panel comes from the Africa region. Mr. Chair, regarding monitoring, we continue to provide technical advice on the wide range of threats and challenges facing World Heritage properties, and it's important to note the growing mismatch of workload demands and capacity that's been referred to. There is, we think, a real need to rethink the approach to technical reviews where the volume of requests is unsustainable. And unlike with the nominations, there is a challenging backlog of monitoring missions that's resulted from COVID-19 and also a range of other issues, including issues related to security. Mr. Chair, I'll, in the interest of time, echo the comments from ICROM about the success of the World Heritage Leadership Programme, the support of the different donors, and including the work on climate change adaptation. And Mr. Chair, I would like to note that we compiled our report earlier this year before the work of the open-ended working group had really got underway, and we're very pleased that a range of the key concerns that we think face this convention are under discussion through the open-ended working group. There'll be the opportunity, of course, to talk about those later in the agenda, but let me just note the importance that IUCN attaches, firstly, to increasing the priority for nature in the World Heritage Convention, and to link this work to the Global Biodiversity Framework. Secondly, to rebalance the list to be inclusive of the heritage of all types and regions. Thirdly, to hear the voices of Indigenous peoples and local communities through revised procedures. And lastly, to tackle the chronic financial issues that face this convention and have faced it throughout my lifetime here of 17 years now and impact all of its actors. We're pleased to note the range of side events that are taking place, which will give an opportunity to unpack a range of these issues. And I'd like to single out in particular the event that will take place on the 27th of July at lunchtime, hosted in collaboration with Brazil, UNESCO, and a cross-section of parties to look at the challenges facing nature conservation and the opportunities to do further. Mr. Chair, we're at your service for further questions and discussion, and we look forward to the further successful days of the 46th session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tim and IUCN. The more we get to know about your work, the more appreciation I have in my heart towards the work being done by ICROM, ICOMOS, and IUCN. You three advisory bodies are the three guardian angels of the convention, and we really appreciate the good work that you do, the time that you spend, and how committed you are to this convention. So please accept my appreciation. I thank you, and I will ask member states if they have any comments on this agenda item. Belgium, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, Messieurs, Mesdames les organisations consultatives, tout d'abord, nous voulons vous remercier pour l'immense travail que vous fournissez au quotidien pour protéger le patrimoine mondial. J'ai une question qui est plutôt une question précise, et donc je vais me limiter à cela, vu le temps limité des interventions. Comme l'a rappelé dans son discours d'ouverture Madame la Directrice Générale, Madame Azoulay, un des nouveaux défis de la Convention est de davantage veiller à prendre en compte dans les analyses les communautés, les usages et valeurs liées aux expressions immatérielles qui participent à l'identité et à la vitalité des biens, et qui sont aussi en lien généralement avec le développement durable. Ma question est la suivante. Lors des évaluations des critères de la Convention et en particulier du critère 6, les organisations consultatives semblent parfois en difficulté lorsqu'il faut prendre ces aspects en compte. Pouvez-vous nous dire si les organisations ont les compétences internes suffisantes pour évaluer ce critère dans le cadre du patrimoine mondial ou si cela pose vraiment un défi pour vos organisations?
Thank you. I now give the floor to Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We want to thank ICROM, ICONOS, and EUCNA for their work and for their reports. We particularly praise the capacity building activities carried out by all three advisory bodies, and we acknowledge the need for more funding devoted to this kind of activities. We commend once again the change introduced by ICONOS in 2023 in the evaluation procedure to ensure a more geographically balanced representation of its World Heritage Panel members. We are closely following the reform of the evaluation process with the introduction of the primary assessment. We look forward to having more information at the end of this first cycle. From our side, we have found the process so far efficient and constructive, and we hope it will produce positive results in terms of the quality of nomination dossier and in terms of ensuring important inscriptions and supporting a more geographically balanced World Heritage list. We are well aware of the increasing workload that advisory bodies have to face, especially linked to the monitoring of the states of conservation due to the rise of the number of properties inscribed on the World Heritage list. An open and engaged reflection is needed at this regard. We continue to believe in the value of an open, transparent, and constructive dialogue between the states parties and the advisory bodies, pursuing our common objectives for the preservation of World Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Rwanda.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'État partie du Rwanda remercie les organes consultatifs des efforts qu'ils déploient dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de la Convention et note avec satisfaction les réalisations telles qu'elles sont reportées dans les rapports des organisations. Le Rwanda note à cet égard des éléments importants auxquels il devrait plus concentrer les efforts pour l'exercice suivant. 1. Renforcer davantage les réseaux entre les gestionnaires des sites et du patrimoine en vue d'échanger de l'expérience et les bonnes pratiques. 2. Renforcer les capacités dans la conservation des sites du patrimoine en s'attelant particulièrement sur l'évaluation d'impact face au changement climatique en vue de garantir la pérennisation des sites à l'égard du défi mondial qui est le climat. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll read first. India would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the three advisory bodies on the very important work that they do each year for the convention and for the committee. Their efforts collectively demonstrate the remarkable progress in strengthening and implementation of the World Heritage Convention. India appreciates the significant strides made through the World Heritage Leadership Program, the Youth Africa Program, and the Program on First Aid and Resilience in Times of Crisis. We also appreciate the efforts in supporting sites on the World Heritage List in danger through expert workshops and advisory assistance. We acknowledge the concerns raised by the increasing demands on the advisory bodies without adequate funding, as it has been eloquently presented, which emphasizes the need for enhanced resourcing and perhaps also about practically rethinking about any new cost implications made in the convention's operations. Despite the challenges, our advisory bodies continue to support the conservation and management of the World Heritage properties, and we commend their instrumental role in advancing the goals of the World Heritage Convention. Mr. Chair, I think you know this is one very important aspect wherein we are discussing the roles of the three advisory bodies on the implementation of the convention. When we went through the reports and the brief presentation made, of course, two of the three advisory bodies articulated their concern about the financial sustainability. The third one didn't articulate it, but I'm sure they will also echo the same sentiments. We are aware of the fact that evaluations are turning expensive. The funds, World Heritage Fund per property is also dwindling. We are also aware of the fact that one advisory body gets one-fifth of what other two advisory bodies are getting. So we would like to understand more from them if the chair allows to give them slightly more time in understanding how the financial constraints are impacting their activity or quality of assessments, and are they open to the idea of having more service providers? Because this is one aspect which is also being discussed in the open-ended working group. And what is their opinion in this regard? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, India. I will now give the floor to the advisory bodies to respond to the queries raised by the state parties. Belgium had asked a query on criteria 6, if I'm not mistaken, to ECOMOS. You have the floor, ECOMOS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier les délégués pour les mots gentils et de soutien que vous nous avez exprimés. Pour répondre à la question de la délégation de la Belgique, cette question du critère 6, évidemment, c'est un élément très important pour nous, comme tous les autres critères, comme l'évaluation et de tous les autres critères. Et il commence à implémenter un système qu'on fait un screening identique pour tous les dossiers, pour les différents types de critères. Et notamment pour le critère 6, on travaille avec notre groupe, un groupe de travail basé sur les droits. I'm sorry, I'm going to pass to English because now the name in French doesn't come. It's our right-based approach working group. We prepare a kind of a template to make a complete screening while applying the criteria 6. So we have the capacity to evaluate this criteria. And so I hope I answered to the question of the delegate of Belgium. Thank you.
Thank you. India, can you list your questions again? Question 1, question 2, question 3 specifically, and to whom are these questions directed? Each of your questions, do you want any of the three can answer, or you want all three of them to answer? So first list your questions, and who would you like the answer from? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, anybody could answer, but I can repeat the questions. Because we are hearing statistics about how evaluations are turning expensive, and there is a financial issue of financial sustainability. We just wanted the advisory bodies to throw light on how the financial constraints are impacting their activity or the quality of assessments. And because we raised a point that there are new mechanisms which are being introduced in the operational guidelines, which are turning it more expensive as well as time consuming. So that was one point. And second is that there was this open-ended working group also talking about the additional service providers. So we wanted to understand or know the view of the advisory bodies in this regard. These were the two fundamental questions that I asked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, any of the three advisory bodies can respond to this question. Would IUCN or ECOMOS like to respond to this? You have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Uh, there are perhaps just a couple of comments on other interventions from states parties, if you would agree as well. Firstly, just to pick up on the point from Belgium, I think the question of sorry, Scott, hope you can hear me. The question of recognizing diverse worldviews applies to some of the other criteria as well. So I think it is important for criteria 6, but as a whole, we think there are discontents on those issues with the way that nature and culture have been separated. Mr. Chair, also in the interest of time, I think just to support the 2 points that Rwanda made specifically about 2 of the needs, and the network of site managers is something that we're working on, both in relation to the World Heritage Leadership Program and also through the work we do as IUCN with the IUCN World Heritage Outlook, which is our periodic assessment. Next will be prepared for 2025, where we try to engage site managers effectively in that work, and particularly to invite site managers to join the IUCN World Commission on Protected Areas, which is the major expert network through which we access the voluntary support that I referred to. If I could just turn to India's two questions. There's a long answer and a short answer, but I think the short answer in terms of where the greatest gaps are is not in the evaluation process, but is in the monitoring process, and in particular in the workload that is provided to follow all of the sites. So I think we can cope normally with the preparation of the reports, but it's to be able to deal with all of the sites that don't get reported. As the numbers of sites increase, the number of state of conservation reports generally stays the same. We will have an exceptional issue next year because we've got a very large backlog of sites coming out of COVID-related delays. So there's a sort of pinch point next year. But the chronic issue in the first place is the workload for monitoring. And secondly is the specific range of requests we get for technical reviews of very particular development applications or proposals, review of impact assessments. So it's not the advice on impact assessments, it's the specific review of those, which I think takes us really outside of anything that we've got the capacity to deal with directly. And I think to answer the point on service providers. So service providers is a word that I don't particularly like as a phrase, but if the point is to find other sources of support and advice on World Heritage, then we spend all of our time doing that ourselves. I've mentioned some of the organizations that we collaborate with. Certainly more input from the Indigenous Peoples Forum would be one aspect of voices that we cannot necessarily represent for ourselves. And certainly more technical support on the review of impact assessments and very specific issues of impact assessments would be something where it seems to me there's a very large gap. I think it is helpful to the committee, I think, to evaluate what can be done through the ways the advisory bodies can adapt our own advice that we provide you. As I've said, we also share costs in a range of this work. So I think analysing what is expected to be funded by the committee and what is the subject of extra budgetary fundraising by the advisory bodies in partnership with the centre is another part of the answer. And now I'm getting into the long answer, so I'll stop, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. India, is your questions answered? Because there were 2 of them, and IUCN has answered. You did not express a specific which of the advisory bodies would answer, so I guess that would satisfy. ECOMOS, you want to take the floor? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'd like it only perhaps to complement something else to the distinguished delegate of India. Our main concern is, well, if you see our budget, you can understand the amount of and the quantity of work that ECOMOS and advisory bodies need to do for the process. It's not only with the technical and the capacity building, but we have for the nominations, all the desk reviewers, all the evaluation of the nominations, but we have also now with the preliminary assessment, a new phase, but we have also the evaluation and the following of the state of conservation. So the amount of work is enormous. And I wanted only to guarantee you that we have the capacity to do. So the quality of the work is there. And I can reassure you that the assessment and the quality of the work, it will maintain. But of course, we need to have funds for that because the amount of work is getting bigger and bigger. So we need to be conscious of this fact. Thank you very much. And perhaps if I may profit to answer to the delegate of Italy that made a comment on what ECOMOS does to ensure more geographical balance. So it's something that ECOMOS is really very concerned, and we work daily to have an equilibrium among the 5 regions on our with our expert team that is working for the World Heritage Matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, IUCN and ECOMOS. Mexico, I've seen you raised your plate. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. También nosotros nos sumamos a los reconocimientos, a las felicitaciones por el ejemplar trabajo que realizan los órganos consultivos. México, como ustedes saben, trabaja de la mano plenamente con los 3 órganos consultivos y también con el ICO, que debe estar presente siempre con nosotros en todos estos trabajos, el tema de los museos. Una atenta solicitud a todos ustedes. Siempre estamos enfocados, y esto vendría también a involucrar el trabajo cada vez más fortalecido que están realizando con los centros categoría 2. Es un tema que nos preocupa mucho en este ámbito tan cambiante de cambio climático, de nuevos retos que enfrenta la conservación del patrimonio que no estaban previstos desde la creación de esta convención en 1972. ¿Cómo ha ido cambiando todo esto? Hay algo fundamental que México siempre tiene en cuenta y que quisiéramos con ustedes hacer un trabajo más puntual. Se hace mucho trabajo con los gestores de los sitios, con las autoridades involucradas en el ámbito del patrimonio mundial. Hay trabajo, los programas que hace la UNESCO, que hace el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial con jóvenes, lo vimos hace rato, pero necesitamos llegar a la gente de a pie, digámosle así, a las comunidades que no tienen absolutamente nada que ver con la gestión del patrimonio y que sin embargo viven en ese patrimonio y que sin embargo también lo padecen de alguna manera, y las autoridades que están involucradas en temas de protección civil, por ejemplo, los bomberos, las policías. No hay un proyecto fortalecido de ese trabajo con toda esta comunidad que también tiene que ver plenamente en la preservación, en la conservación del patrimonio a través de planes integrados de gestión y conservación, de programas de prevención de riesgos. Finalmente, gracias por el trabajo de este estudio, de esta nueva guía para los estudios de impacto patrimonial.
Thank you for your comment, Mexico, but there is no question. Your comments are well noted. Thank you for your expert views. Any other member state would like to comment or seek any questions that need to be answered? Thank you. I see that there are no more questions and comments. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to proceed with the adoption of the draft decision 46.5b. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if he has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous n'avons pas reçu d'amendement concernant le point 5b.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur. There are no amendments to the draft decision. Are there any objections before we adopt it? I see none. I therefore declare draft decision 46.5b adopted. Thank you very much. I therefore now declare item 5b closed. Dear colleagues and friends, we will move on to the next item, which concerns the implementation of the strategy of the World Heritage in Africa contained in document WHC-24/46.com/5C Before we hear from the World Heritage Center on this matter, I would like to pay tribute to a towering figure in the realm of heritage preservation and a guiding light of cultural stewardship in Africa, who has sadly passed away on 29th of April this year. Serving as a rapporteur of the World Heritage Committee and chairperson of the General Assembly of State Parties, among many other honorific tasks, Professor Dawson Munjeri from Zimbabwe has left an indelible imprint on World Heritage and the UNESCO community. His immense contribution led to the creation of the African World Heritage Fund, to the recognition of more African sites as World Heritage properties, and following the adoption of the UNESCO strategy for Priority Africa in 2021. Professor Munjeri had accepted to coordinate the development of the strategy of World Heritage in Africa, which we are about to discuss. With your permission, I would like to propose a 1 minute silence in his memory. Thank you very much. Allow me now to give the floor to Mr. Muhammad Juma Muhammad, Chief of the Africa Unit of the World Heritage Center, to present to us this document. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm going to present the item 5C, was report. It's available in 46 COM 5C. Mr. Chair, distinguished member of the committee, I'm pleased to present to the distinguished member of the committee the progress that has been achieved implementing the strategy of World Heritage in Africa in accordance with the decision 45 COM C of the World Heritage Committee. This strategy serves as a crucial tool to advance the UNESCO Global Priority Africa, in particular the main objective 1 of flagship 3. It continued to fulfill the promise made by the Director General of UNESCO, Madame Audrey Azoulay, during 44th session of the World Heritage Committee in Fuzhou, China in 2021, to conduct a regular assessment of and facilitate consultation in situation in Africa, and propose concrete measures to mobilize international support for a successful, effective, and sustainable implementation of 1976 Convention in Africa. As you recall, Mr. Chair, the strategy identified clear priority areas and targets to be achieved by 2025 and 2029, which aligns with the medium-term strategy 2022-2029. This presentation will focus mainly on the presentation from September 2023 to May 2024. Chairperson, distinguished member of the committee, state parties are the most critical actors in the successful implementation of strategy. Next slide, please. To that effect, the center worked very closely with the state party to mobilize funds and stakeholders and to monitor implementation at the national level. In February this year, during the mid-cycle assessment of the Regional Action Plan, and in close collaboration with the African World Heritage Fund, the center organized with the focal point of Africa to the 1972 Convention and explained in detail the priorities, objective, and target of the strategy. All focal points from Africa region agrees to better align and create synergies between Africa Regional Action Plan and the strategy to enhance our effort in dealing with nominations cited on the list of World Heritage in danger and capacity development. Our focus will be in particular on the 11 countries with no site inscribed on the World Heritage list, 20 sites on the list of World Heritage in danger, and the capacity development for national experts, site managers, local community, and stakeholders, particularly women and youth. Regarding the site managers, the center continue to support the newly formed network of African site managers to facilitate capacity buildings, exchange of experience, and peer learning. Next slide, please. Mr. Chair, in the period from September to May, Somalia submitted its first tentative list in March 2024, following special training for local expert and authority in Mombasa, Kenya on World Heritage process. This is an important milestone as from now on, Somalia will engage in the process of developing nomination this year. In addition, 2 countries still without site on the list, namely Guinea-Bissau and Sierra Leone, submitted their nomination dossier in January 2012 for possible inscription on the next session of the World Heritage Committee in 2025. To ensure our success toward nomination in close collaboration with African World Heritage Fund and the Arab Region Center for World Heritage, the center and advisory body initiated training on preliminary assessment to prepare a state party from Africa and Arab states for the new procedure in nomination process. The training course organized in Bahrain in May 24 gathered 22 participants from 18 countries, including Algeria, Burkina Faso, Djibouti, Egypt, Gabon, Kenya, Namibia, Senegal, Tanzania, Tunisia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. For the list World Heritage in danger, Mr. Chair, currently 20 sites on Africa country or continent are inscribed on the list. The first significant step before committee remove this site from list is the development and implementation of corrective measures that are needed to reach desired state of conservation. To date, all concerned state parties have received training on development this occur. In April 2024, for example, Mr. Chair, at last training workshop organized in Nairobi, Kenya, where local experts from East African countries were trying to develop corrective measure and costed action plan. 44 participants were involved in this training, were indeed making progress after committee has adopted its last session. This occurred beyond developed by Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea-Bissau for the transboundary property of Monimba, strictly natural reserve. The committee is examining and adopt at this session, present session, this occurred for Airtenere Natural Reserve. Next slide, please. Chairperson and distinguished member of committee, the secretary continue its initiative to institutionalize, enhance, and develop new capacity development measures in Africa. In this regard, the center launched the 3rd phase of mentorship program in June 2024. As of today, 60 junior local experts has been engaged in this program with equal number of third women and third men experts. In addition, in close collaboration with ICROM, the center organized a training course on heritage impact assessment in Mauritius, involved 30 heritage experts and practitioners from United Republic of Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. This workshop provided training on the new guidance and toolkit for impact assessment in World Heritage contents aimed at improving management of developing projects in around World Heritage site in urban area. Next slide, please. One of the strategic primary objectives is to support state party in leveraging good conservation for social economic development and sustainable livelihood. For that, the center support initiative related to entrepreneurship and the conservation work to facilitate social economic development, particularly for women and youth. During this period, Mr. Chair, 2 initiatives were supported. One, conservation project in Parc National du Juge, Senegal, where women's association work to transform Taipa into mass, creating economic opportunity. The second one is in Zanzibar, a conservation project of cinema that will be used as a hub for cultural activity launched in April this year. This initiative are planned to be expanded to other sites in Africa to enhance livelihood and social economic development with youth, women using new technology. Mr. Chair, distinguished member of the committee, implementing strategy will cover over the period of 7 years between 2022 and 2027 2027. A mobilizing fund will require the joint effort of all partner and international community. I therefore want to take this opportunity to thank numbers of donors for their financial support, namely the government of Australia, China, France, Japan, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Republic of Korea, Portugal, the Netherlands, Norway, and Sultan of Oman. UNESCO has successfully started to implement the target of the strategy. Mr. Chairman, distinguished member of committee, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your clear presentation. I would like to know whether there are any comments on this agenda item. Japan, followed by India.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we mentioned earlier under agenda item 5A, Japan puts a great importance on Africa when we consider our assistance for both nomination and protection of World Heritage Sites globally. Speaking of nomination, we believe that there must be many heritage sites of world value in Africa that have not yet been fully recognized, and it is easy to imagine that the lack of progress in inscribing such properties on the World Heritage List, despite the efforts of each state party, is mainly due to issues from a technical perspective. Therefore, Japan intends to support the inscription of specific World Heritage Sites through capacity building. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the very important presentation by the World Heritage Center. Now, let me touch upon a capacity building program for the nomination of World Heritage Sites in the African region, which is designed to assist 10 countries who are among the 12 countries without any inscription in the World Heritage List at the time of the inception of the program. This program is strongly expected to reduce the gap among state parties on the World Heritage List by enhancing the representation of Africa, one of the global priorities of UNESCO, as we have been having an enthusiastic discussion in open-ended working group. Since its inception, this program has produced steady progress in line with our initial expectations thanks to the efforts of each partner member states, World Heritage Center, and advisory bodies. We believe it is still fresh in our memory that Ngwe National Park of Rwanda was inscribed on the World Heritage List last year in Riyadh as one of the first sites on it. Following this successful precedent, 2 nomination files were submitted this year, namely Gola Tiwai Complex from Sierra Leone and Ecosystème Côtière et Marin de l'Archipel de Biago, Onati Miho from Guinea-Bissau. We are quite satisfied with that the programs are going on in other member states as well, and would like to see further achievement in relation to preparing for their nominations. When it comes to conservation, we have a project in Cabo Verde which is planned to protect the World Heritage Sites by promotion of tourism and regional revitalization in the time of post-COVID-19. Finally, we have the honor to announce that Japan has decided to initiate its support to the proposed program titled Approach to the Concept and Practice of Heritage Authenticity in Africa through Japanese Funds in Trust, JFIT. We believe that this program will contribute to the further promotion of the inscription of World Heritage Sites in African region and addressing the issue of the representation of the list. Japan intends to continue its multi-layered contribution to the representation, protection, and promotion of the World Heritage in the African region. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to India, followed by Zambia.
Thank you, Chairperson. It is with pleasure that we note the remarkable progress made in the implementation of the strategy for World Heritage in Africa. The World Heritage Center has demonstrated exceptional commitment to preserving the rich and diverse heritage of the African continent. We congratulate Somalia on submitting its first tentative list and Guinea-Bissau and Sierra Leone for submitting their first nomination dossiers for possible inscription in 2025. It is through the Center's targeted training and technical support that we are able to see an increased representation of African heritage on the World Heritage List. We commend the support extended by some member states in launching the third phase of the mentorship program. This initiative significantly contributes to building a pool of skilled professionals in Africa with a focus on gender equality. The training workshops offered to women in Senegal is yet another effort towards gender equality, helping women develop entrepreneurship and contributing to sustainable development. As we reflect on these achievements, we must also recognize the challenges that remain. Effective communication and mobilization of stakeholders, including local communities, indigenous people, and civil society, are essential for the successful implementation of the strategy. As the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned yesterday in his speech, India stands committed to reduce the regional imbalance with respect to Africa and initiate programs for capacity building in collaboration with the World Heritage Center. We congratulate the World Heritage Center, its partners, and all stakeholders for their tireless efforts in successfully implementing the strategy for World Heritage in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Zambia, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Chairperson, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend our deepest condolences to our Zimbabwean counterparts and the African fraternity, and moreover, the Heritage Global family, on the great loss of our dear Professor Dawson Munjeri, who was not just a mentor for me as an expert now, but also for the rest of Africa. And as we take this floor for the first time as a state part of Zambia, our appreciation goes to the host government of India for their warm hospitality. And I would also want to specifically state that even when we saw that we were likely to have problems in terms of movement from our country, the embassy of India was very swift in dealing with our issues. So we would want to specifically acknowledge that aspect. It was unprecedented. Hence, we have most of our delegates here. And most of all, I would also want to appreciate, the green environments that we are able to see within the city of New Delhi. Honorable Chairperson, having listened to the presentation on the report on Priority Africa, I would like to state that, as a state part of Zambia, we would like to join the rest of the members who have already taken their floors in trying to appreciate the role that has been undertaken by the Secretariat in trying to make sure that the issues to do with Africa are taken on the platform, on the global stage. We would like to also appreciate the governments that have already pledged to work with the African fraternity in trying to make sure that the conservation and management programs are undertaken. To this end, I would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submit.
Thank you, my brother from Zambia, for your kind words. I now give the floor to the Republic of Korea, followed by Vietnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Republic of Korea welcomes the progress report and notes that the strategy for World Heritage in Africa has been bolstered by collaborating through relevant partnerships and initiatives. This year, the Republic of Korea hosted the 2024 Korea-Africa Summit, the first multilateral summit which brought together 48 African countries. This milestone event demonstrates our commitment to promoting shared growth, sustainability, and solidarity. In line with this commitment and drawing on our experience and lessons learned from cooperation projects supporting Africa, such as biodiversity conservation and sustainable natural resource management for integrated community development in the protected areas of Madagascar, the Republic of Korea will continue to support African countries through capacity building projects for heritage. We also anticipate the second workshop on World Heritage interpretation and presentation in Africa, scheduled to be held next month by WIPIC, a Category 2 center in Korea. The Republic of Korea will continue to collaborate with African state parties to better implement the strategy for World Heritage in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Vietnam, and after which the list of state parties will be exhausted, and I will give to the observer state party of the People's Republic of China. So, Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
personally taking the floor for the first time. Glad to take this opportunity to say how much I'm impressed by the rich cultural heritage, rich old civilization along with modern developments of an incredible India. Monsieur le Président, nous aimerions remercier le secrétariat pour le rapport exhaustif sur la mise en œuvre de cette stratégie importante. Comme membre du groupe des Amis de la priorité Afrique, la Vietnam se facilite des efforts continus des États membres de l'UNESCO, des organisations consultatives ainsi que d'autres partenaires visant à soutenir la conservation et la gestion efficace et durable du patrimoine culturel de l'Afrique qui est connu de sa richesse. Il est important d'aider 11 États parties africains non encore représentés sur la liste du patrimoine mondial à élaborer une proposition d'inscription sur demande pour améliorer la représentativité et la balance de la liste du patrimoine mondial, ainsi que de renforcer le rôle des experts du patrimoine africain et leur implication dans le processus du patrimoine mondial en Afrique et dans d'autres régions. Le rapport a également mentionné un grand défi vis-à-vis de la mise en œuvre de cette stratégie, qui est la communication pour mobiliser et atteindre les bénéficiaires, ce qui restreint l'impact des activités. C'est pourquoi le Vietnam pris les initiatives qui permettent d'augmenter l'utilisation des nouvelles technologies, la création de bases de données, ainsi que l'élaboration et la diffusion des outils de communication sur le patrimoine mondial. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the People's Republic of China, followed by Colombia.
Mr. Chairperson, please allow me to congratulate you for the successful convening of this session. We would also like to thank the host country of India for their hospitality. We have seen doves flying in this meeting hall. With these beautiful creatures around us and with your capable leadership and wisdom, I'm confident that the agenda items will go smoothly in a professional way and the session will be a great success. As regarding this agenda item, I wish to commend the Secretariat for their efficient work and well-prepared report. Dear colleagues, the Africa region contains a remarkable variety of nature and cultural heritage. To date, the region has 103 properties inscribed on the World Heritage List. However, dear colleagues, this is not an adequate number compared to the huge potential of the continent. The operational strategy for Priority Africa adopted by UNESCO's General Conference at the 41st session not only stresses the imperative need to protect and preserve Africa's magnificent and diverse culture and natural heritage, but also emphasizes the need to reinforce capability development. In this context, Mr. Chairperson, China continuously provides support to World Heritage capacity building in Africa. Recently, China and the World Heritage Center are working closely on the establishment of funds in trust of $2 million for World Heritage capacity building in Africa. We hope that with this program launched, we could witness more heritage sites inscribed and better preserved in Africa. And we hope to work with other partners to support the implementation of Priority Africa in the field of World Heritage conservation. Thank you.
Shishi. And those are the doves of peace and prosperity, specially brought in. So with that, I'll give the floor to Colombia, followed by Azerbaijan.
Gracias, señor presidente. Desde Colombia queremos exaltar la labor llevada a cabo en la implementación de la estrategia para el patrimonio mundial en África, porque reconocemos sus particularidades y experiencias propias, de las cuales esperamos aprender y contribuir en ámbitos como la superación de los conflictos armados, la economía digital, el uso responsable de la biodiversidad y su avance en materia de integración. En efecto, En nuestro Plan Nacional de Desarrollo se estableció la meta de construir una política exterior de justicia racial que reconozca el papel y la importancia de los pueblos étnicos, con miras a defender la agenda de reparación histórica, reconectar nuestras diásporas y estrechar decisivamente las relaciones con los países de África. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Azerbaijan, followed by Botswana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to echo my colleagues in thanking you for excellent stewardship and with regard to the report, also would like to thank the Secretariat for the report. As a strong supporter of Africa, Azerbaijan has always supported the initiatives of the UNESCO regarding the priority Africa. This has been our priority issue during Azerbaijan's chairmanship at the non-aligned movement, where we have announced 2 global calls to support the post-pandemic recovery of Africa and SIDS, allocating $1 million USD to each calls, as well as through Azerbaijan UNESCO Fund and Trust, where important projects in the field of safeguarding tangible and intangible cultural heritage in Africa have been implemented successfully. And we are keen to continue assisting the countries in need with capacity building activities and ready to share our expertise for the effective conservation of heritage sites. The work of World Heritage Center with stakeholders in Africa, both with relevant organizations and state parties, is very important in the framework of the capacity building strategy. The main objectives, capacity building programs and illicit trafficking of cultural property outlined in the flagship program 3 of the operational strategy of Priority Africa, which Azerbaijan fully supported, are relevant not only in Africa but in the other regions as well, and need to be addressed effectively. We believe that the capacity building activities are the cornerstone for the effective preservation of cultural heritage. Considering the importance to safeguard the rich heritage of Africa, Azerbaijan financially contributed to the African World Heritage Fund, and we are planning to continue our support to Africa World Heritage Fund. Azerbaijan is ready to assist African states and organize workshops and trainings for African experts. I would like to remind that the last 2 years, National Commission of Azerbaijan for UNESCO organized capacity building activities for 24 Secretaries Generals of the National Commissions of African countries, and we are planning to continue these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Botswana, but before that, the 3 advisory bodies, I will only be able to give floor to you for 1 minute, but I may not be able to give all the 3 because we need 10 minutes to adopt the decision. So Botswana followed by Mauritius. Is that Mauritius? I can't read it. Okay, Botswana, you have the floor quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving us the floor. Since this is our first time to make a contribution at this prestigious heritage gathering, Botswana would like to appreciate the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to our delegation by your beautiful country, and also congratulate India for a well-organized meeting. Mr. Chairperson, in order to support the Southern Africa member states in increasing the number of inscriptions on the World Heritage List, as per the results framework, which intends to identify, protect, and manage the cultural and natural heritage for sustainable development in the region, Botswana intends to complete the review of or updating of our tentative list. Mr. Chairperson, Botswana is in the process of reviewing its respective World Heritage List. An initial assessment of the potential 8 sites was conducted in 2023 last year. During the period, 8 out of 10 sites were visited by members of the National World Heritage Committee. The exercise is planned to be completed during the current financial year. Mr. Chairperson, we are currently working on developing the state of the conservation report for the Okavango Delta World Heritage Sites to be submitted to the World Heritage Committee by December 2024. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mauritius to be followed by Serbia.
Thank you, Chair. Permit me at the outset to congratulate you on your nomination as chairperson and India for hosting this World Heritage Committee and its commitment at the highest level, demonstrated by the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister of India at the opening ceremony.
We had the opportunity to host an HIA-BIE capacity building workshop this year, and we'd like to thank UNESCO and advisory bodies as well as the participating state parties for this. Ambitious wishes to thank UNESCO Secretariat and advisory bodies for their continuous support and advice with respect to our two World Heritage sites. We also thank different countries for supporting the strategy Priority Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Serbia to be followed by ECOMOS.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais d'abord, au nom de la Serbie, remercier à notre aimable hôte et vous féliciter, Monsieur le Président, pour la présidence de cet événement exceptionnel. Nous tenons beaucoup à dire que le Fonds africain pour le patrimoine mondial est très important, dont nous soutenons le fonctionnement matériellement tous les ans et nous en sommes très fiers. Ainsi, avec notre, disons, engagement auprès du groupe des amis de l'Afrique à l'UNESCO. Et nous voulons féliciter tous ceux qui ont reconnu et qui ont pris la parole aujourd'hui pour l'Afrique et pour notre commun, nos actions communes en Afrique. Merci et félicitations.
Thank you. ECOMOS, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you, Chairperson. ECOMOS has been very active in the promotion of the conservation of cultural heritage in Africa. Capacity building and awareness lie at the core of our actions. ECOMOS Africa Group consists of experts from 26 countries, and we are spearheading the instituting of more committees in the region. The African World Heritage Fund is an important partner for ECOMOS activities relating to world heritage on the continent, is providing funding for African experts to attend the ECOMOS World Heritage Panel and to participate as observers in the ECOMOS technical evaluation missions of new nominations. We continue to partner on capacity building of African experts on world heritage. The first capacity building workshop on preliminary assessment process presented to African and Arab experts in last May was made possible through the collaboration with African World Heritage Fund and Arab Regional Center for World Heritage. Thank you very much.
IUCN, you have the floor for 1 minute to be followed by ECRON.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'UCN travaille étroitement en collaboration avec le Centre et les organisations consultatives et le Fonds pour le patrimoine mondial africain pour contribuer à la mise en œuvre de la priorité Afrique à travers 4 actions majeures. La première, réaliser des études thématiques pour contribuer au renforcement du nombre de sites africains sur la liste du patrimoine mondial avec une priorité donnée aux pays qui n'ont pas encore de sites inscrits. Accompagner des biens inscrits dans l'élaboration de la mise en œuvre de leur état de conservation souhaité en vue du retrait de la liste en péril, mettre en place un mécanisme de financement durable et la valorisation du patrimoine mondial africain. Et enfin, Monsieur le Président, renforcer les capacités des jeunes professionnels africains dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention du patrimoine mondial, notamment à travers le programme de mentorat et le World Heritage Leadership Programme. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Ikram, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. ECROM is fully committed and supportive to the various efforts mobilized for the Priority Africa agenda through our Youth Heritage Africa program. We welcome the ongoing discussions of the open-ended working group that suggested to establish an Africa 2035 program that continues the achievements of the Africa 2009 program, which was implemented by ECROM and other partners as capacity building institutions. The program directly collaborated with key heritage stakeholders in all of the African states parties, and the steering committee, as the decision-making body, had a majority of directors of cultural heritage from the region elected on a rotating basis. They decided on the program of work so that the African countries had full ownership to the capacity building programs.
As ECROM, the capacity building advisory body, the technical expertise of ECROM can be better utilized to deliver better integrated results for Priority Africa that can enable heritage to contribute to socioeconomic growth of local communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see that there are no more questions and comments. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to proceed with the adoption of draft decision 46.5c. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if he has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous avons effectivement reçu un amendement soumis par la Zambie, coécrit par le Kenya et le Rwanda. Amendement qui propose l'insertion d'un paragraphe 7. Remercie également le gouvernement du Kenya d'avoir accueilli l'atelier sur la liste indicative de la Somalie et celui de l'Afrique du Sud pour avoir accueilli l'atelier sur l'examen à mi-cycle du 3e cycle de l'exercice des rapports périodiques pour l'Afrique. Paragraphe suivant propose d'insérer et le Fonds du patrimoine mondial africain aux côtés des États parties africains. De même que le programme phare 3 de la stratégie opérationnelle pour la priorité Afrique 2022-2029. Enfin, le sous-point C du même paragraphe propose la suppression de la mention mentoré via le programme de mentorat. Et enfin, dernier paragraphe, demande au Centre du patrimoine mondial, en coopération avec le Fonds du patrimoine mondial africain, de suivre la mise en œuvre de la stratégie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. We'll now go paragraph by paragraph. Paragraphs 1 to 6. They are not been amended. Can you just scroll down? Are there any objections to adoptions of para 1 to 6? I see none. Para 1 to 6 have been adopted. Para 7 also thanks the governments of Kenya for hosting. Are there any objections to the adoption of para 7? Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Just a very minor point. There is a repetition of for hosting. I think the second one can be deleted. For the review of, I think hosting can be deleted.
Thank you, Korea. Thanks the governments of Kenya for hosting the tentative listing workshop for Somalia and South Africa for the review of the mid-cycle review workshop of the third cycle of periodic reporting for Africa. Yes. Are there any views regarding this para before it's adopted? I see none, but I'm keeping this para open till we go down. Yeah, I have not hit the hammer. Rapporteur, you have the
Thank you. I think what Korea meant was deleting the review. So thanking the South African government for hosting the mid-cycle review workshop and not hosting the review of the mid-cycle review workshop. So we should delete the review instead of hosting, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Rapporteur, are you okay if you can read the sentence? Is it grammatically correct? And I request member states to please, when you fill up the blue form, please give a cogent, grammatically correct sentence. Mr. Rapporteur, you have the floor.
All of them. Yes. Thanks the governments of Kenya for hosting the tentative listing workshop for Somalia. And maybe we should add the government of South Africa for hosting the mid-cycle review workshop of the third cycle of periodic reporting for Africa, and then delete the SAT governments before Kenya. Also thank the government of Kenya for hosting the tentative listing workshop for Somalia, and the government of South Africa for hosting the mid-cycle review workshop of the third cycle.
Thank you. Kenya, are you okay with that? Is your intention covered by these corrections?
Most obliged. Yes, it's true, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we support the proposal by Kenya to add this paragraph. Secondly, we still have some duplication of words, governments and for hosting. So just to improve the language, can we just say also thank the governments of Kenya and South Africa for respectively hosting. And then the tentative listing workshop for Somalia and the mid-cycle review workshop. Yes.
Thank you. Are there any objections to para 7 as it appears now before adopting? I see none, but I will not hit the hammer but go down to the next para 8. Calls upon, is there any objection to para 8 as amended? Vietnam, you have the floor.
I don't have any objection. I just support those amendments. I just want to add a little amendment to 8A. So at the end of 8A, to assist in developing a nomination fair request, I think that we should respect the sovereignty of those countries.
So noted, Vietnam. Are there any objections to this para before it is adopted? I see none. Can we go down to the next amendment? Are there any objections to adoption of para C, 8C? I see no objections. Can we go down to the next amendment, if at all there are any further? Yes. Request the World Heritage Center in partnership with the World Heritage Fund. All right. Are there any objections to this? I see none. Okay. Can we just scroll down to all the paras? Are there any objections to adopting the paras as a whole? The decision as a whole? I see none. This decision is adopted as amended. Thank you. I therefore declare item 5C now closed. Dear colleagues, we have now reached the end of our afternoon session. We will resume at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning with the examination of the following items. 6A, World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy. 6B, Progress Report Category 2 Centers. 7, State of Conservation, General Item. 7A, State of Conservation of Properties on the List in Danger. Also remind all Bureau members of our second meeting at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow in the Summit Room on level 2. But before we close for the day, I'll give the floor to the Director of the World Heritage Center. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I just want to remind all the delegates that we have two side events this evening. The first one will start at 6 p.m. At the advisory body space, and the title of the side event is contributing contribution of the IUCN Green List to the effective management and equitable governance of World Heritage Sites. So this will start at 6 p.m. That is just now. And then we have the other side event, which will start at 6:30. No, before the advisory body space is at the room MR17, which is level 1. And now the side event to start at 6:30. It's on boosting local conservation action to meet global targets for people and planet experiences from African World Heritage Sites. And this is organized by UNESCO and Norway. So, and it will be in room MR6, also in level 1. Thank you very much. And the side events starting at 6 o'clock is organized by IUCN with its regional offices and UNESCO. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you and have a nice evening.
Se va a quedar allá, ¿no? Por lo visto, las charlas. ¿Cuándo? Quiero ver. ¿Una qué? ¿Ahorita? Pero pues sí, con cómo lo vemos acá.
It's also food facade.
Es como
チームの名前を消す代わりに別のところに名前も入れるっていうこと。
¿Lo tienes considerado? Por eso.
Also, one last announcement, colleagues and dear delegates, it's that there will be the launch of the UNESCO exhibition, which will start at 6:15 in the corridor near room MR13. And please, you're also invited. And this exhibition is organized by UNESCO, and it's titled Interwoven Legacy Synergies Between the World Heritage and Living Heritage in India. And you are all most welcome. Thank you.